Brooks to hold. Chase McGrath for the win for the Volunteers. From 40. On the way, a knuckleball. He got it!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Johnston out here, and no safety help. Do they take a shot at him? No, they give it to Miller. Touchdown! TCU wins!
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
First down, Forum with a lane. No, make that Edwards. Breaks it back. Donovan Edwards. Sprinting. Touchdown, Michigan, 67 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
4-2 in the lead. Rising up the middle. He's in! Utah leads.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
They fake the give to Brown. Now they got him on the wheel route. Chase Brown down the sideline. Touchdown, Illinois.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
I know sometimes you have to be careful with recency bias when it comes to a player or a team. And I know there have been some incredible weekends in college football, but considering what we saw, 43-30, 43-40 in overtime, double overtime, was it double overtime with TCU and Oklahoma State? What we saw with Tennessee and Alabama, 52-49, and then Utah late Saturday night with their going for two to beat USC and knock them out from the unbeaten ranks, 43-42. That was spectacular. Good afternoon. It's a Monday. A bunch of evidence to get to, so to speak, from bangers in the Big 12. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being here on 365 Sports. We will today drop in on Tennessee, Illinois, UCLA, and TCU. And on top of that, my conversation with Baylor head coach Dave Aranda. But let's start with Tennessee, Alabama.
It was a fantastic game. Alabama has more problems on defense than I thought they ever would. Tennessee's offense is great. Their defense scares me, but they can win. Look, if you want to get in the shootout with them, they're going to take you down. Hendon Hooker was really impressive, especially in that last 16 seconds where usually that stuff works out for Alabama. It didn't. I wonder if there's maybe another loss or two on the schedule for Alabama because they do things – even with, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, there's a ton of penalties. The defense is vulnerable. They do dumb things that normally Alabama, the muff punt. Yeah. Alabama teams, Nick Saban teams don't do that. This one is, and I wonder what's in the future for them. Tennessee can enjoy this for a little while, but they still have Georgia coming down the line. They still have a lot of things happening. So, but they look really good, and I hope that Knoxville is functioning after a 24-hour rest period.
Knoxville does not need to get behind a wheel of a car. Craig Smoak, your thoughts about 52-49?
Yeah, it was an incredible game. It was why we all watch and love college football, and hats off to the Tennessee Vols and their fans for what was an incredible, viewing experience, and I can only imagine of what it was like there in person. They have every right to be as excited as they seem to be and feel like the old days are back, although, as we pointed out, still a long way to go. I mean, we're halfway through the season at this point, so, I think they've taken the last couple of days to celebrate as much as possible and deserve to, and now it's on to the next one. Ultimately, you got to turn that page because you get stuck on just beating Bama, and, you're going to get beat by a couple teams and not end up where you'd like to end up ultimately, but, it was a long time coming for them. It was made out to be a big deal, and I'm glad that given the hype, the game lived up to the actual hype because that doesn't always happen. And I give a lot of credit to, Josh Heupel and his whole team. I mean, it was an incredible performance. And, this is what it's like to see what we used to watch with Baylor, basically on a bigger stage, and what people thought this might be able to look like if, the Briles system was to get an opportunity against an Alabama and to have the types of athletes that Tennessee is able to get. What could that look like? Is it a gimmicky offense, or is it something that could take down the Alabamas of the world? Well, it could be both. I think it is both. And maybe not gimmicky is the right word because that makes it sound cheap, but there is some gimmicks to it. There's no doubt about it. But, yeah, it works and it's effective, and it's Heupel's own spin, of course. It's something that we've seen flashes of at, different stops for him, and he seems like he's, on top of his game, and he's got the right players in tow, and certainly tremendous backing, and here they are, as arguably one of the top teams in the country. I think for Alabama, I mean, you lose by 3, in extras, and it's he had more penalties than you've ever had. You made a bunch of mistakes. And so I don't think that this Alabama team is suddenly like going to lose 3 games because they lost to Tennessee on Saturday night. But I do think that if they play that way, they're vulnerable in the SEC against teams like Georgia or a Tennessee or perhaps a couple of others as well.
As they almost were against Texas. Let's do the Alabama stat first, Garrett. And then TCU. Ari Wasserman, by the way, from theathletic.com was at that game, wrote about it. He'll join us today in the 5 o'clock hour. So this is the stat that this is from the broadcast. Paul mentioned this. Well, first of all, they ran back the fumble, which was as easy on the doorstep, pick it up and run into the end zone. They also had they just do this, and it's because they have incredible players on defense. But you can't say that when you give up 52. Alabama with 56, which is incredible, non-offensive touchdowns since the start of the 15 season. And San Diego State with 38 since the start of the 2000 and also 15 season. Now, to Tennessee and who they've beaten. Tennessee now has moved up to number 3. This is a great stat from Greg Harvey. Teams in college football history to start 6-0, beat 4 top 25 AP opponents, and on top of that, score 30-plus points in each of the first 6 games in a single season in college football history. You're looking at them, the 2022 Tennessee Vols. TCU is right there on the doorstep, just under that, but Tennessee has the 4.
Yeah, and their fans have to be super excited because it's been a long time. It is, if you think about it, January 3rd, 1999, when it was the day after they won the national title. And I thought about this. The day after you win your last national title is when your dive into irrelevancy begins. But you don't think of it that day. You're as happy as you can be on the day after. And then it's been 24 years of futility for them, really.
Yep.
They've had some okay teams, but to that standard that they had that day is not been there. And this is the first real win they've had in that time that makes you think that maybe, and again, it's still a maybe. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, that you could get back to national relevance again at Tennessee, which is one of the huge programs in the country.
They have an incredible crowd. It was unbelievable. Stormed the field and all that. They got fined $100,000 for that. And, of course, the goalposts are down. We're going to have a video on that. Now, the sports, 50 votes so far on the show, on the chat room. Is Tennessee a true national contender? 66% of you, 67 now. That just clicked over, say yes. 33% of you say no.
Have y'all seen the remainder of their schedule? How are they not? I mean, who's lining up to beat them outside of Georgia? If you look at the remainder of their schedule, they've got a pretty easy cakewalk to the SEC championship game outside of Georgia, of course, which it'll probably all come down to. But, I mean, they play Tennessee Martin this week. They play Kentucky. Now, I give Kentucky credit. They got Will Levis back, got a nice win over Mississippi State that we all should have seen coming. That's so typical of Leach to lose that game. But Kentucky will, perhaps pose a challenge if you're just looking at who could. But then Georgia. So you got Kentucky and Georgia back-to-back. Then Missouri, okay. South Carolina, all right. Vanderbilt, okay. I mean, that's it. So you got 2 games coming up here after this next one that could – one for sure will challenge you in Georgia. But outside of that, that's their schedule.
Yeah.
That's their remaining schedule.
If I said that you could walk 100 yards, but between you and the 100-yard marker, there's this thing called Godzilla, and that's Georgia. But right now, Tennessee believes in what they're doing. Now,
yeah, but that's better than saying there's no Mothra. There's there's just Godzilla versus like 4 other monsters that are in tow.
And you can lose that game being a part of the SEC and still be a part of the conversation, even if you don't play for the SEC title, because we've seen that before. Now, let's get to the Big 12. TCU now, they have Kansas State this week, 5-1 against 6-0 TCU in that spectacular fourth quarter. They were down. I was watching the game, almost the entire game. And I said, okay, they just don't have quite enough. I knew they were explosive. And then Oklahoma State really they're usually pretty good about closing out, and they didn't. And for TCU and Sonny Dykes and that scene and what they did with Duggan and Kendry Miller and yet again Quentin Johnston, they now, along with what we see with Texas surviving against Iowa State, we'll see about Kansas State, and who knows what anyone else is. Oklahoma State's still a part of that conversation. That was impressive for TCU.
Yeah, it was. And Oklahoma State did something I didn't really think was their bag, in that they ran out of gas. I mean, they were stuck in neutral, whatever, analogy you want to use, but they, Spencer Sanders wasn't really effective in the running game. You could tell that this was a game where, especially late, they started to miss the fact that they didn't have like a true big play wide receiver, like a guy, all right, I just need to throw a ball up and you need to go be super athletic and go get it. And it just, something that, especially that fourth quarter, it just felt to me like they were kind of done and running on fumes.
Did it feel like he was hurt?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going on, Paul. He's hurt. I mean, that's what it is. Spencer Sanders isn't 100%, and I think you already see the line for the Texas game moving in the Longhorns' favor because people know he's hurt. And that's what, the big question mark is right now, is to what extent. Because he's clearly banged up, but to what degree, I don't think anybody's quite sure just yet. It was certainly a talking point on Saturday. But regardless of what his status is moving forward, and obviously a very big game coming up this weekend that will have championship, implications in the conference without a doubt, you sure hope he's 100% because, if not, then like you said, going to your point about who are like the go-to guys. I mean, Dominic Richardson's fun and all, but I mean, who
Yeah, he's just a thumper.
But Spencer Sanders is the whole engine. Yeah. So I mean, if they don't have him healthy, Gunnar Gundy's great to have as a backup option, but that's not going to go beat Texas for you most likely. But yeah, that's a story to monitor the remainder of the week. As far as the game itself goes, just a crushing loss for Oklahoma State. Their fans, at least a segment of them, have been very vocal about where's the respect, and it's like, can we just get to the halfway point first and let's just watch you? And that's been my thing, is like, hey, I think Oklahoma State's good, but my whole, patience as far as, declaring them this or that is just seeing, like, I want to see a bit more. That's all. I saw you play Baylor. It was a really impressive win, but I also saw, some parts of that game where I don't know how much of it was you and how much of it was the opponent. And so I just want to see a little bit more of you to know how good you are. And, I think that first part of the game, you thought, okay, Oklahoma State's the real freaking deal, man. Like, they're going to go win the conference, or, they're going to go play for it again. And TCU just had a different plan in mind. And they are scrappy, and they are not going to go down without a fight. And they got a lot of playmakers. And they were able to just hang around long enough. That's what was up with Oklahoma. They couldn't create enough separation. I mean, it looked like they had a little bit of a window of separation up by a couple of scores, but they couldn't slam the door shut. And they left it open just enough that, you connect with a Quentin Johnston and Max Duggan's doing his thing and the running game gets going and you just get a couple stops and, there was TCU right there. And, just a lot of credit to Sonny Dykes. They seem to be kind of like Baylor last year or whoever you want to, compare them to as far as kind of the improbable team that's right there thick in the mix. That's where you find the Frogs right now, and there's every reason to believe that they're going to remain in this race the rest of the way. They've had some big tests that they've already passed, and remaining unbeaten and being able to beat Oklahoma State, I think is just really impressive. I give a lot of credit to the Frogs, and I still think Oklahoma State's a really good team, but they need to figure out the health piece before we get too excited about what they could still potentially do. But brutal loss, no doubt about it. They had that in hand and just could not, like I said, slam the door, and terrific come-from-behind victory for TCU.
You want to talk about player development? I want to talk about Quentin Johnston really quick. You want to talk about player development? We saw Quentin Johnston when he was in high school at Temple, and there was a game against Midway where he got completely shut. He had one long touchdown because he's a big dude, and then got completely shut down. And it was when he was in high school, you could tell the potential was there, but at that time he was like, I'm just content being faster and taller than most everybody I'm going to play. But you could coach around him. Now, the development between these two coaching staffs, the last one that recruited him and then this one this year, that is growing a player right there. And credit to him for investing in his talent and not just going, well, I'm 6'3", and I'm bigger and stronger.
Maybe taller than 6'3".
6'3", 6'4". I'm bigger and stronger. It'll work out for me. He's legit.
No, he is, and he got a spin move that he's developed that is just, especially when he's as tall and I want to say angular, not lanky, but and it's hard to, a little stiff arm here and there. All right, so let's try to do a few things here. There's so much to get to on Mondays. We don't have a guest until 3:45. We will read some of what you're saying as well on the chat room, which we appreciate that. Also, the text line is open at 254-339-1122. Our first 1122. Our first guest is Brent Hubbs, who covers Tennessee. Now, let's go back to Tennessee and Alabama for a second. Then I want to dig into the polls and a few things with the Big 12. By the way, the Big 12 this weekend, you have 5-1 Kansas State, unbeaten in the conference against TCU, unbeaten overall and in the conference. And then you also have Texas, 5-1, and the one loss to Texas Tech. On now a little bit of a, they lose that game they lose Saturday's game the last 10 years. Iowa State, my God, they're like the this year's version of Nebraska, but they're 10 times better than that team at Nebraska last year, losing all those close games. The drop, oh my God, by Xavier Hutchinson, and then the fumble, which is that's a bang play, and it's a fumble. The ball was coming loose, and then yes, there's the argument about what that hit was. It happened. Don't fumble. But he did get hammered, no question, Deckers. And they're playing at Oklahoma State, and you wonder about who they are all of a sudden. Not who they are, but coming off the loss. So here is the goalpost. And then we're going to look at the top 25 a little bit and also the Big 12. Listen to this video. You've seen it. My goodness, it was unbelievable. Tennessee fans, here we go. If you could hear the crack, the snap, and that's dangerous as heck because those things are heavy.
All I thought? CBS is like, it's a really expensive camera.
Yeah, that's exactly on top. So there's that. Tennessee fans lived it up. They should. They took both goalposts down, walked them out of the stadium into the river. It was insane. I kept kind of following 3 or 4 different guys that covered the game in the post game and watching it as it came out of the stadium, as it went down through the section of where there's a bunch of sports bars, all the way out to the Tennessee River, and then dumped it in. And they're trying to raise money to pay back for the goalpost cost.
Okay, I know this has been like a running joke now the last 24 hours on Twitter, but really, Tennessee, you have no shame with your greed. I mean, I understand this is just part of college athletics, but this was let's give the greediest display we possibly can when it comes to college athletics is to go and ask for tens of thousands of dollars to replace the goalposts when you're making gobs and gobs and gobs of money, and how many millions you made on Saturday night with those same fans in attendance, and they live it up and they tear down the goalpost and you turn around and put your hand back out for more money. It's disgraceful. And I understand that most Tennessee fans don't care. And, I think they're smart. They're asking them when they're still hungover or still liquored up from the win and, in the joy and aura of beating Alabama for the first time. I get it's all part of the fun of college football, but sometimes I think we ha-ha on it when if we really were being honest with ourselves. We're like, this is gross. That was gross on Tennessee's part to turn around and ask for money for the goalpost.
You know how much their endowment is?
That's not the
Billions.
same thing.
No,
I get it, but
I
get it's all part of it. But if we're being honest, like that's just so greedy.
Well, what school is the one who's paying all the money for a quarterback, right? And their alumni. That's who you're asking. Allegedly. But like all of that. And then, look, I don't blame Danny
Who's
White.
paying that, by the way?
Yeah, the
not
alumni.
The school,
yeah,
the alumni again, right?
Yeah. So I don't blame Danny White, the AD, for trying to take an opportunity to raise as much money as you can, but it's silly to say like, oh, it's for the goalpost. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. You will replace they're already probably back up. They have some sitting around.
I don't want it to take away from the win, and it doesn't take away from the win. It has no bearing on that win over Alabama, and like I said, it's a minor thing in the long run, but it really was like the most blatant example of college athletics creed that I have seen in a really long time was to turn around and ask for money for the goalpost, knowing full well how much money is flowing through Knoxville, Tennessee. I just have some decency, especially in this time period of all time periods. You're still putting your hand out. I don't have any respect for that.
And I love with Tennessee fans. They enjoyed it. Again, now get back up off your hangovers and do what you do. Of course, UT Martin Craig went through the rest of the schedule, but George is there, and that ought to be one hell of a game when that comes, if people continue to hold serve and shock as it should be. Now, the Big 12, I mentioned, 4 teams, all of them this weekend, will have a chance for a little maybe either separation or just all hell breaks loose. Kansas State, TCU. Kansas State's only loss is to Tulane. By the way, congratulations to Willie Fritz and company. They're in the top 25 for the first time in 24 years, I believe it is. Texas at Oklahoma State, both of them with 1 conference loss. Something has to give there. Someone's about to have 2. And then West Virginia plays at Tech. Both 3-3. West Virginia after Thursday's win. Tech had the weekend off, and Baylor hosts Kansas. Both them in need for a win, as they're not in a free fall, but it's a little dicey for one of those two, whoever doesn't come out of that game Saturday in Waco with a victory. Cincinnati continues to run. They have SMU this weekend. A&M, non-conference at South Carolina. Now, the top 25, those who fell out.
Cross-conference.
What?
Cross-divisional.
What am I saying?
You said non-conference A&M and South Carolina.
That's right. I'm sorry. That's right. It's East against the West. Kansas out in both polls. Baylor dropped out, as they should as well, in the coaches poll. They weren't ranked in the AP. The Big 12 has TCU at 8 in both polls. Good for the Frogs. Oklahoma State 11 in both polls. They didn't fall far. Kansas State 17 in both. Texas is 20-1, 21 in another. Cincinnati 21-1, 19 in another. Of course, they're a future team in the Big 12. Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee. That's all the same. Clemson, Alabama, Ole Miss, it's pretty much the same. And then UCLA and Oregon both ranked in the top 10. And that's going to be interesting because game day is going to be at that game coming up this weekend. A note about Iowa State. Brett McMurphy. Since their 3-0 start, Iowa State has now lost 4 consecutive games by a combined 14 points. They have found ways to lose. On the verge, of course, against Baylor, they had the late touchdown, and it was a touchdown game. That's a chunk of the 14 points is that game. But that loss, Xavier Hutchinson had a drop in the game the week before. He's a fantastic player. He maybe just hyperventilated in the moment. I thought it was a perfect throw by Deckers. No one within 10 or 15 yards of him.
Whatever anxiety that the kicker had against Kansas,
he
had passed on to Xavier Hutchinson.
Well, you also can't, turn it over near your goal line like they've done multiple times now this season. They've got a real affinity for that, which is a problem. But yeah, I mean, the Hutchinson catch stands out because that was, obviously a big play. But there's little things that add up for Iowa State, and they've added up week after week after week to put them in the position where they are right now. So yeah, absolutely a frustrating season. And here you are halfway through, and I don't really know what the feel is up in Ames. I would love to know. I think that there's a lot of their fans that are realistic and understand that they're not just going to every year be really good, no matter how many Xavier Hutchinsons come back or how much you think Hunter Deckers is better than Brock Purdy or whatever, nonsense we heard during the season, whether legitimate or not. It's been a real struggle for them. So, just interesting to see kind of the unique ways they've found to lose. And, we're seeing Baylor kind of do that in their own way as well. Not quite as dramatic or as extreme, but not that far off in terms of like shooting yourself in the foot and not being able to overcome that. So, yeah, tough year so far for ISU.
One other note, and this is from we will get to our national picks because I missed 3 bang games. It's hard, and we'll get to that a little bit later on and check us up on that. Carl Page, I have Kansas State pulling off the upset this weekend. Brent McMurphy, here's another note. The only team in America who apparently has not thrown an interception this year is the team whose quarterback threw 30 in its first 4 years in college football. That's Adrian Martinez in Kansas State.
How do you prevent that from happening very often?
You don't throw as much.
You don't throw the football. Yeah.
So, but that's a note with Kansas State having the off week to kind of get themselves even better after they kind of rebounded from the loss to Tulane. Willie Fritz will join us, by the way, Wednesday's show, the Tulane football coach. From Wet Blanket, seriously, you guys, again, Spencer Sanders, he thinks that whatever he took as far as a cortisone shot or whatever it was with his injury may have worn off maybe in the second half of that game. He did seem different.
He was hurt. He was
hurt even before the game. But maybe something did wear off. But you could see that his ball, there was not the zip on the ball, and he wasn't as mobile either.
I mean, guys, he might not play this week. I mean, that's what's out there. So, I mean, yeah, he was dinged up, and that obviously had an effect in the game. I think just the question again is to what degree, and could he possibly miss time, and how much did it affect him in that game? Well, he's not going to say much about that. They're not going to dwell on that and make it some type of an excuse. Other programs probably would, but, they're not going to do that there. And they're certainly not going to tip their cap and say, oh, yeah, Spencer's got a bad whatever, and, he's touch and go for the Texas game. No, they're going to, play the game like everybody else. And so we'll find out probably on Saturday or late Friday what Spencer Sanders' actual status is. But, yeah, that certainly played a role in that football game. There's no doubt.
All right. I had a chance to visit with Dave Aranda, and I do ask him about, does it hurt his defensive soul, what he saw Thursday night in Morgantown? I asked him about year 3 as a head coach and what he's learned about himself, and is he disappointed? We get into that, and also a little bit about this team and what is the key ingredient that seems to be missing. We'll have that today at 4 o'clock. So much to get to. We don't have enough time. Let's go until 10. We can't do that, but we should. We'll have Brent Hubbs on VoltQuest.com just around the corner. Dave Aranda, also, again, Illinois, the UCLA. And then also we'll check in with Ari Wasserman, who covered the TCU game, a spectacular win for them against Oklahoma State. This is 365 Sports.
During Jeep Adventure Days, Allen Samuels in Waco is celebrating with an incredible lineup of 2022 models like the Grand Cherokee, Grand Cherokee L, Renegade, Wrangler, and the Wrangler 4xe. These vehicles bring power to plow through any obstacles or the smooth, peaceful ride you'd expect from a Jeep. Jeep SUVs are also known for their design and technology. The Grand Cherokee L even brings you extended seating with a third row. Come see what Allen Samuels can offer you and your family and find the Jeep SUV that fits your lifestyle.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, here we go on this 365 Sports YouTube. Back around today, we have Emery Winter, Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, and he's out for right now, but he's been around all day since the Aranda press conference, and also Garrett Ross running the mothership. So go to the Pac-12 one, Garrett, if you don't mind. This is the Pac-12, of course, a great win for Utah in their win against Southern Cal. And how about Whittingham going for 2 and getting it with 38 seconds to go? This gutsy win for
Saturday was an incredible day. I mean, it really was. And, for all the talk this past offseason about, contraction and super leagues and all this BS, like Saturday is a prime example of why would we do that to this sport? Like, why would we want to eliminate the possibilities of some of these games? Now, granted, you could still have USC, Utah, and Alabama, Tennessee, and slice like half the country apart if you wanted to. But I just think it was all the right ingredients from top to bottom, from Thursday night in West Virginia, Baylor, through, Saturday night late into the night. Like, that's college football. That's what it's supposed to be at its best, and that's what we got this weekend. And, Alabama, Tennessee was just an incredible, incredible game. USC, Utah was a thrilling, entertaining game. And Florida State, Clemson was, all of them. They were fantastic. In the Pac-12, I know you're about to get to it, but for as rocky as this offseason was, they're having some fun right now as far as on the field goes.
They have Oregon and UCLA both ranked in the top 10 in both polls. USC's 12th, and so they're handling their own. And so here is a graphic, and leave it up for a second. Here's a graphic, matchups between Pac-12 teams ranked in the AP top 10 playing each other since 1986. There's 17 games, including what will be 18. First time since 2018, 2 top 10 teams in the Pac-12 will meet each other. It has not been often. You can see a lot of this and that, teams that are kind of mixed in. Oregon had their run. Washington then had their run in 16, 16, 17, 18. But first time since 2018, matchup with the Pac-12 with two teams, both of them, at 9-10 and 10-9, depending on which poll you look at, ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, it hasn't been great football. I mean, it really hasn't. Oregon pretty much carried the conference for, I don't know, nearly 2 decades. I mean, if you really think about it. And, yeah, you mentioned Washington popped up, and they were a playoff team at one point. And, I mean, USC was kind of out of commission there for quite a while. And now you got them back. Utah looked like Utah on Saturday night. That looked more like what you came to expect from them and not what we had necessarily seen prior to that. UCLA's proven it's for real. Oregon with Bo Nix, you're always going to be a little shaky on it if he can stay clean as far as, turnovers and things like that. But, they're a good team as well. So it's a fun league right now, and it's cool to see that they're, experiencing success and having some big matchups, and it's not just all – what's on there after midnight? What Oregon State, Washington State? No, there's a lot more to it than Pac-12 after dark for the first time in a while.
Yeah, I also think on Bo Nix, I think part of it is he's in a place now where the fans aren't so far up his backside they could brush his teeth from the back like you are at Auburn. I mean, like that fan base needs to just take a huge chill pill, and I hope the best for them. But it's kind of a crazy town right there right now. And so Bo Nix leaving there and going to a place that, believe me, I know Oregon fans are crazy, but it's much more chill just by its very nature at Oregon. There's things they do there that just make everybody relax.
What do you mean? They're all retired?
Yeah. No.
From the 8-3-2, now, let's do the Alabama graphic on penalties, if you can, Garrett, on that one. So they lose 52-49. They had a pick at the end of the game. They ran back about 60 yards or so. And you don't have it? Okay. 17 penalties against Alabama. 17 penalties against Alabama, the most ever in a Nick Saban era. They gave up 52 points, was the most since 1907 to Sewanee. Yeah, I said it. 52 points. And they've had a couple of gaps where they weren't very good. That is a couple of different things that were, along with they still made big plays. They still had some gifts. They still forced a lot of things. Now, this is from the 832, a text message. This is why, what have you done for me lately? Do you think Nick Saban is losing his fastball? Lost or almost lost several big games the last few years. The answer to that, in my opinion, is emphatic no. They won the national title 2 years ago. He did win a bunch in a short amount of time, 9, 11, and 12. He's now won 15. He won in 17. He won in 20. Yes, he lost to Georgia. He lost to Clemson. I don't know what's happening with them as far as the discipline and the penalties against Texas and against Tennessee, but I don't think there's any way that he's lost his fastball.
No, and look, sometimes it gets harder to win when everybody – around you is hiring guys specifically to beat you. Kirby Smart at Georgia is hired to beat Alabama.
From Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, they brought in, he's a Georgia guy through and through, but they hired him off of that coaching staff to beat Alabama. And he is copying the format as well as he can, and now has maybe surpassed Alabama in recruiting. I don't think there's any better coach at recruiting in the country right now than Kirby Smart. They're doing so well at Georgia. And then you just have people all around you. You are, they are the 800-pound gorilla. They're everybody's Super Bowl, and it happens. I don't think he's lost his fastball. I do think, though, that if you have a year like you did last year where you lose a bunch of talent, sometimes you're going to have a little bit of a drop-off before the other guys are ready. Turn around next year, they're going to be
talent and they lose coaches.
Yeah. So they lose talent and coaches. It's going to change.
Of course, people aren't going to feel sorry for their talent because they're third and fourth team.
But their dip is like a blip on the radar, and then they kick back up.
Yeah, I just think everybody else has, found themselves in a good spot as far as having the right mix of coaches and talent, and I think you can probably point to NIL for some of that. I think you could probably point to just, the difference that Josh Heupel makes versus, who we've seen at Tennessee previously is like they finally landed on a guy who's, looks like he's going to be the dude and really, make them feel like they're back to the mountaintop, and are going to stay there as opposed to kind of a flash in the pan feeling or never being able to feel like you're going to get over that hump against Alabama. I mean, they got over that hump, at least on this time around this past Saturday. And so I can only imagine what the belief level is like in Knoxville at this point. But, yeah, I just think it's I mean, look at that game. It was Saturday night, loaded stadium. I mean, like, you lost by 1 point despite having, like, a historic amount of penalties and this ferocious crowd and all of that. Like, you still were right there at the very end despite all of that. So I think most teams would have been blown out by 30, you know, in some of those had some of those mistakes occurred to other teams. They wouldn't have been able to handle it and respond the way Alabama was still able to respond and handle it. And so, yeah, I mean, maybe the fastball is only 97 rather than 100, but 97 is still going to beat most everybody. It's just not going to beat Tennessee in a freaking thrilling contest at their place where it's just Nutsville. I don't know. I just feel like there's just certain games that, you know, you're going to lose and certain nights where it's just not your night. And I think that there's just been a few of those here lately, but it's not a sign of like him losing his touch or not being able to coach anymore. I just think there's other good coaches that have come up, learned from the Bama method, learned from other methods, and, have their moments in the sun as well. So no, I'm not worried about Alabama not, being what they've been accustomed to be. I just think it's good that others have kind of risen to their level rather than them falling to others' level, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Carl Page, can we stop with, but K-State lost to Tulane. They're ranked 25th, first time. And do you have that? I think I sent you that one. I hope I did, Garrett. It seems like you're not getting all my emails. You blocked me, I'm sure, because I send about 20 a weekend. Willie Fritz, again, yes, we know about Tulane, Carl, and we'll have them, by the way, him on the show Wednesday at 3:15. Here's my question. Of these fan bases, and we need to break it a couple of minutes, but from these fan bases, Alabama, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Baylor, USC, and you could add 3 or 4, but which one of them are more pissed off today? Which one of them are more upset this week? Zach immediately said Oklahoma State.
Say
Cameron, Oklahoma. Which of these fan bases?
No, I know. What teams? The PO teams. Which ones?
Alabama, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, USC, or Baylor.
Can't be Alabama. They get a mulligan every year. They won't be PO'd until they get their second loss.
All right.
If that happens.
Yeah, I think it has to be Oklahoma State. Iowa State's used to it. Baylor kind of getting used to it at this point. USC, that was a thrilling game, but there's no reason to really hang their heads in that one. I mean, like Utah had full-blown like memorial helmets like for their 2 fallen players.
Yeah,
and like as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, well, made the wrong pick here. So, yeah, I think USC can shake that one off and be okay. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, that's one that they should have had, and they let that go.
And a bunch of fans, and we have a lot of Oklahoma State fans. We appreciate you. You were high as a kite after the win against Baylor and then the win against Tech, and it's part of the deal, man. In the Big 12 turnaround and something hits you, it's like when you don't close the top of a cabinet in your kitchen and you turn around, whack. That's what the Big 12 seems to be, and now they have Texas, who's coming into town after the win where they survived, but they got it done against Iowa State at home this past weekend. Some have said Iowa State. Don't forget the Penn State fan base. USC from Cameron, 70% Sanders, 100% Gundy. So there's a lot of that going on. And Zach Rayner, by the way, exactly at Craig on the comments you had just a moment ago. I would say Baylor, but the top 5 ranking today in college basketball made me feel better. So that's that and a bunch of your reaction. Thank you very much. Jason, Oklahoma State fans are pretty salty right now. They were quietly moving along, and we're probably starting to believe that they had big things in front of them.
Hey.
And then all of a sudden, the loss in Fort Worth.
It wasn't so quietly for some. There were a few, like the last couple of weeks, that were very outwardly, expressing their distaste with the lack of, talk about Oklahoma State. And I don't mean just on this show. We've talked about Oklahoma State, but like even still, we still talk about Oklahoma State, and it's like, you're not giving Oklahoma State enough respect. But I know that they peppered that across some other places as well. So there was a feeling of like, yeah, give us our respect, and then they turn around and they get beat, and that's unfortunate because they are still a very good team despite that loss. I think the voters show that too. They're still borderline top 10.
Yeah.
They didn't fall. They didn't deserve to losing a game like that. They're still very good. But the Spencer Sanders health question, that's, I don't know.
I will give you a tip on the give us our respect if you're a fan. Don't say it until the bowl game is over.
I tried to say it's too early. It's too early, but
enjoy it.
You can feel it.
Yeah,
you can feel it.
And we'll have probably TCU fans, but that's why today we have somebody who covered the game, Ari Wasserman, and also Quentin Johnston, their All-American candidate at wide receiver tomorrow.
Think of yourself as that, like, you're running for mayor of a city, and you're running against somebody that you know is an idiot, but you can't outwardly say he's an idiot because then his people will paint you as the mean guy. Even though you know it, you have to keep it inside.
Well, that's what Oklahoma, hey, but enjoy it. No, you should enjoy it. And the win in Waco was a big deal. And, boy, Brigham Young got beat up again, huh? They're all of a sudden in a little bit of who are we. When we come back, we'll hear from Brent Hubbs, VolQuest.com. Tennessee on their win against Alabama, and what does it mean and what's next? This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr. They are the people that you can count on. And even though I didn't buy my vehicle over at Richard Carr, I have gone over there a couple of times now to get it fixed up when I've been in some fender benders that weren't my fault, but I still had to go and get it taken care of. And they were the people that I counted on to fix my vehicle up, and it's been working great since they took care of business for me. Well, for those who haven't gone over to Richard Carr, or maybe you have, either way, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, the wait is over as they have trucks and SUVs on the lot. 2022 Sierras, Acadias, Terrains, all from the GMC line have arrived. They're waiting for you to test drive today. They've also got Cadillac XT4s, Cadillac XT5 SUVs, also both available for test drives as well. But inventory is going fast, so get on over to the dealership right now for the best selection. When it comes to the GMC Sierra, for example, they've got best-in-class towing, strong steel bed, multi-pro tailgate, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior that includes massive touchscreens plus 14 camera views, and premium comfort. And I'm sure there's some bells and whistles that I'm missing out on, but you get over to the dealership and they could tell you all about the GMC Sierra or those other vehicles that have plenty of cool things that you can check out as far as their models go as well. But that's part of getting on over and talking to the good folks over at Richard Carr to find that exact truck or SUV that you're looking for. And if that's not enticing enough for you, what the Sierra offers, you're looking for something a little bit different, a little something more specific, well, get on their inbound vehicle list and you can cut in line for the exact truck or SUV that you're looking for. Trucks or SUVs that are in production but not quite in stock just yet. It's basically like your placeholder to be first or up next for whenever that car does arrive. Or you can let them help you design the exact truck or SUV you want, and Richard Carr will have GMC prioritize it for you. So again, a lot of options and a lot of different things to do over at Richard Carr to make sure you end up with the vehicle that you are looking for. In business for over 23 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Waco's proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Make a winning drive to Genco and refinance your vehicle. Every loan can skip monthly payments for 90 days with rates as low as 3.75% APR for 48 months. Right now is the time to make a play. At Genco, we save you money by helping you pay less for your car. Every loan scores no payments for 90 days. Then have a chance to win 3 more months of no payments. Apply online today for an additional discount of 0.15% off our already low rates, subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org. Member NCUA.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnston Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnston Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnston Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnston Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnston Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor, Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The
team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, wants to get you back in the game.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So we have discussed a lot of the incredible weekend in college football, from Utah and their late win against USC and TCU, Oklahoma State, among some others. But my goodness, it put college football in its ear in Knoxville as the Volunteers backed it up with a win, 52-49 over Alabama. And Brent Hubbs joins us from VolQuest.com. Have you slept yet?
Not much. Not much. I tell you, it was the post-game interviews for the media was nearly 2 hours after the game was over, because it took, to get the players and coaches off the field was its own set of challenges. And, of course, they had a bunch of recruits in and former players. So it was delayed there. And then there were so many storylines and angles from the scene following the win, not just the win itself, but the scene following the win. You don't see that every weekend in college football, and you haven't seen it in Knoxville since Florida 1998. And so there was a lot to write. There was a lot to dive through and then try to decompress a little bit and get up and the next day and start all over again. So, it's been a wild 48, 72 hours in Knoxville for sure. And the schedule for Tennessee is probably a good thing that they're playing UT Martin this weekend.
How much of a relief did you feel from fans that something like that finally happened again?
That's a great point. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it, because when you see the overhead drone shot or the blimp shot, whatever that was, there's this mass humanity of people on the field, right? Like here, they're storming the field. But when they got to the field, it was like the largest gathering at an outdoor bar you've ever seen in your life. Like there was no running around and kind of pushing around and hopping and going crazy. There was just this almost moment of peace with thousands of people crammed together on the field of just relief and decompression and just a big exhale that they finally got to smoke the cigar they've been bringing to the stadium for 15 years. And they finally got the opportunity to just soak it all in. It was a kind of a surreal feeling on the field with all the fans out there. They were happy, and don't get me wrong, they were excited, and it was vocal and loud, but it wasn't chaotic like you think it would be when people rush the field like that. It was kind of, once they got down there, it was like, do we have to leave? Really? You're telling us we got to go home? Because we just want to stay for a while.
So, Brent, take us through kind of what you were doing and your thoughts as that game, wound to a close there.
Well, I'm with the university's radio broadcast. I'm a spotter and analyst, so I bring us in and out of breaks, and I observe things and, work with our other color analyst, Pat Ryan, who's a former NFL player and former Tennessee player. When you get to that moment in a broadcast group, I learned a long time ago from the great John Ward, you get out of the way. It's not your show. It's the play-by-play guy's show. So you just get out of the way. And so I'm just sitting there, and I'm waiting to see if Nick Saban's going to call his final timeout. He doesn't, which was a surprise to me. Still dumbfounded at that point that Alabama would give up an 18-yard completion and a 27-yard completion in 13 seconds to give Tennessee the opportunity to win it. And then, he kicks the ball and you're looking at it through the binoculars, and it's, I've heard it described, you can describe it however you want to. It's the ugliest, most beautiful kick you'll ever see if you're a Tennessee fan, because it was, he took a false step. It was kind of like he chunked a wedge if you're a golfer, right? Like he chunked a wedge and it bounced up close to the hole. And you're like, well, that was ugly, but it worked. And that was kind of what it was. I mean, it was just, he chunked it, he hit it fat, if you will, but it was just enough to get over the upright. And then your immediate reaction is, I can't believe they won. Now, you got to remember, I mean, the last 7 trips by Alabama into Neyland Stadium, the Crimson Tide's average margin of victory was 29 points. There had not been a competitive game in Knoxville with Alabama since Tennessee beat Alabama in 2006. Now, Tennessee had a chance Lane Kiffin's year in 2009 with the Mount Cody block field in Tuscaloosa. Butch Jones had a lead with 7 minutes to play in the fourth quarter in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee had played Alabama better in Tuscaloosa than they had in Knoxville. I mean, that place in Knoxville in years past was owned by Alabama in the last 5 minutes of the game because all the Tennessee fans had gone home because the game wasn't competitive. So to witness that and sit through that for that many years, and the ball goes through the uprights, your first reaction is, holy crap, they won the game. And that's literally the reaction that I had, was just kind of like, heck fire, they won this thing. Like, you were just waiting for the next bad thing to happen. I mean, remember, I'm on a radio deal. I was in Baton Rouge when Tennessee won, and then they dropped the flag for 13 men on the field, right? I was at the Music City Bowl when North Carolina misses a field goal, and then there's a penalty, and it's on North Carolina. They back them up 5 yards. They get to kick it again, and the next year there's the 10-second runoff rule. Tennessee has won more games that way and ultimately end up losing them. So you're just kind of, for a second, you're like, wait a minute, there's nothing bad getting ready to happen, right? And that's kind of how Tennessee fans were. It's why there was, I won't say a delay in the rush to the field, but there was just a pause of hesitation. Like, it's good, right? There's nothing else going to happen here. And then it goes from there. So it was interesting, to say the least.
Well, Brent, that leads me into my question, in that Alabama usually, with 16 seconds left on the clock, they're the ones who you left too much time for. And Hendon Hooker turned that completely on its ear. In fact, they did that exact thing to Auburn last year. Mm-hmm. Hendon Hooker just turned it on its ear, didn't he?
He did, and it starts with the head coach. Okay, the head coach doesn't believe in the victory formation. You're going to play every play for 60 minutes, right? I don't care if you got a 40-point lead. We're going to hand it off on the last play of the game. We may run out the clock, is Josh Heupel's mentality, but we're not going to just take a knee and be done with it. And so if you followed him in his entire career, and of course, obviously I've followed him close since he's been at Tennessee the last 18 months, when they got the ball with 15 seconds, you knew Tennessee was going to take a chance down the field. They weren't going to, see if they could pop a draw. I mean, they were throwing the football, and they were going to let Hendon Hooker turn and let it rip. And Hendon Hooker averaged 18 yards of completion on a day he completed 70% of his passes against the Nick Saban secondary, which doesn't happen very often. And he made two really good throws. The second throw, he had to get a little bit tall because pressure was coming. Brew McCoy makes a great play. There, 2 seconds left. The timing on it was perfect, and here Tennessee is with a chance to win it. Hendon Hooker is going to be in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony as a finalist, and Josh Heupel's got him humming along in this offense right now. It's if you like offense and you like you like points, Tennessee's a fun team to watch, even if you don't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah, in line with that, in awards, I mean, I would not be surprised to see Jalen Hyatt heading to the Blitnikoff Award, given the way that he, performed, not only Saturday but throughout. What did you make of his performance?
He's arguably the best story on this Tennessee football team this season. If you go back to the middle part of last year, you would see Jalen Hyatt leaving the complex. He had a hoodie on. He had the hood up over his head. He had his earbuds in. His head was down. He never made eye contact with people. He boathed in and out of the building. He was as unhappy could be. And in the day and age of the transfer portal, the first thought you had as a media guy was, I need to make sure he's not going in the portal today, because he wasn't playing a lot. Bayless Jones had taken his spot. He wasn't getting opportunities. And so you just, in this day and age, weren't sure he was going to stay. He got to know Tennessee's new receivers coach, a guy named Kelsey Pope. He was an analyst last year. They developed a really good relationship. And then Bayless Jones, who's now with the Bears, had a conversation with Jalen right after the bowl game. And he said, everything is in front of you, Jalen, but you have to learn to go earn it. You got to be mature enough to go earn it. You can be a high NFL draft pick if you're willing to put in the work to go earn it. And it was like a light switch went off. It's like they flipped a switch. He immediately went to work. He had a great spring. Everybody talked about how different his intensity was. 15,000 balls over the summer in the jugs machine that he caught. He's completely dialed in. He's on a prove-it mentality right now, and he's proven it each and every week with what he's been able to do in this offense. And he's got confidence that he's never had at Tennessee, and he is off and running. That performance Saturday inside Neyland Stadium is the best performance I've seen as a wide receiver. It's a record-setting day.
I believe, Brent, it's the most points Alabama's allowed since 1907. The 17 penalties that Alabama had, we saw them almost cost them in Austin against Texas, where they somehow survived because of Bryce Young. Does it seem to be a team that's not disciplined? Because that would be almost everything against whatever Nick Saban preaches every day.
Yeah, I was watching Nick Saban's press conference today, and I was a little befuddled to hear him say, my team played tight. We seemed antsy and tight coming into the game, and it's like, really? That's just uncharacteristic for them. And the more uncharacteristic things, I know a lot of people are talking about pass interference calls, and he's talked about that. The thing that stands out to me, and you saw this against Texas, you saw it at times against Texas A&M, it's the self-inflicted stuff. It's the lining up offsides. It's the illegal procedures, the false start penalties. It's things that they've just not done under him. And I'm not in the camp that this guy suddenly lost it and all this stuff. But for whatever reason, this team, he's having a hard time getting this team to play with the edge all of his teams seemingly have played with. And I don't have any idea why that's the case. I don't cover them on a daily basis. But to watch them, self-inflict and hurt themselves the way they did on Saturday, and not taking away anything from Tennessee, obviously, but that's just very uncharacteristic for them. And they've been that way, as you mentioned, throughout the year. I mean, Bryce Young bailed them out against Texas. And, defensively, they made a play at the end of the game against Texas A&M to win that game. They are not your typical looking Alabama team right now. They don't play with that kind of edge. Will Anderson, Tennessee did a good job defending him, but he's not playing with the intensity he played with a year ago. I don't know the answer to why, but they do look a bit different, yes.
Brent, appreciate it. Get some sleep. I can't even imagine the scene. It's probably like Mardi Gras hit Knoxville.
That was special stuff on Saturday.
That was.
There's not a lot of people who got to work on time today, and there's not a lot of people who got a lot of work done today for sure. So yeah, it was. It's the beauty of college football, and Tennessee and Neyland Stadium could be a great place when their team is good. It's been a long time here to try to get that thing awoken, if you will, and it's wide awake right now with this football team.
Paul,
sure.
I know you had another question. I said we don't have time, but one of the questions all three of us want to know, I know Tennessee's asking for donations to pay for the goalpost and all of that. Isn't that a little bit much that they're asking for money from the volunteer fans?
Yeah, I think there was, and this is kind of the downside to social media sometimes. There's some tongue in cheek in that. That's not for now. They're taking donations for renovations to Neyland Stadium, but that's a $300 million project, right? They're not sitting there going, we don't have the money to write a check this week for goalposts. So there was some tongue in cheek in that it didn't go across anybody's tongue and it didn't resonate off anybody's cheek. It did not come off very well because there's a lot of national people going, really, you guys are a billion-dollar university and you're asking for some money for goalposts. They've got goalposts underneath the stadium ready to put up, so they don't need money for goalposts. It was a social media post that went awry in some ways. Let's put it that way.
That's good. I'm glad you helped explain that. Appreciate great stuff, Brent. Enjoy it. And I know UT Martin, thanks for your time. We'll be in touch again soon.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Good stuff from Brent Hubbs, who tries to summarize the weekend in Knoxville.
No Busch Light or cheap beer left in that city.
I can't imagine the bars probably stayed open even if they weren't supposed to. And even if they weren't open, everyone was having a great time. When we come back, Baylor at 3-3 at the Crossroads. Kansas coming up this weekend. Kansas after their loss this past weekend to Oklahoma. We will hear from head coach Dave Aranda. My conversation with him is next on 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Baylor, of course, has their homecoming this weekend. So what are some of the specials if you want to get some tailgate things as far as product and much more? Yes, they also, of course, have your charcoal and pellet fuel. But one thing that they will have, brisket, you can walk in the door and they have this big, like it's a tub, like a trough, and it's cold and it's cool, and they have big, huge brisket, the tri-tip, sausage, whichever kind you want. And on top of that, they, of course, have chicken wings if you want to put that and cook that for your tailgate. They have the Rotel cans and queso dip, and if you want to use burger or sausage, they have that available for you with their butcher shop and the bakery. They have cold beer and wine. It is a great place for your tailgate or for what you want to eat for dinner the rest of the week. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Take it to Mathis. Daniels. Oh, he throws it right back to him. It's Dylan Doyle.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
This one from 44 to tie the game. And Mayers got it. Big kick.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Baylor football coach Dave Aranda with me, David Smoak on 365 Sports. As someone with your background and the relationships, psychology, how much, and is it more frustrating to you when you sometimes may misread your team, misjudge them, than even if a quarterback throws a pick or someone makes a mistake on the field?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it's right now it's difficult because I think they're probably finding out about themselves as well, and so I think there is, you know, in the process of trying to get to, you know, the kind of what the basis for this action or the why, and to get to all of that, you don't want it to be you don't want to create a whole other thing when you're trying to address this one, you know, poor performance or this one, you know, missed opportunity. And so I think you want it to be, you want to get information, and you want to help better understand from their view what the problem is. And so I think when, you know, there's not a real sure feel on that side of it, it only clouds it, you know. And I think that has been apparent to me these last couple weeks. And I think the view for us as coaches to try to be clear and really define what we're saying, I think can help with their interpretation of events. And so that's been the path we've been on, but it's been It's been a unique one.
You've mentioned complimentary football. That's been missing on occasion. You said something in the postgame that you thought your team was ready to go to battle, ready to fight. And I know that human nature is there's going to be good days and bad, but shouldn't they always be in that mode before a game?
It's funny. You would think so, but that, you have to really work to get them there. And I think, we've probably had some games this year, unfortunately, and none of us ever talk this way, but this goes to the task within the task, where I think we showed up thinking we're just going to win this game. Here we are. Where's the championship belt? And so and that was something that's never been a core belief or a core anything with anything we do. And so when that shows up, that's very alarming, and that's something I take really almost personally. And so the ability to be at your peak and be at your most ready when the game starts is really a skill, and we're still trying to hone that.
I'm not trying to dig too much, but is there something missing? You've mentioned maturity. You've mentioned this or that. There's nothing really in the core of this team that's an issue behind the scenes, is there?
No. I think everyone is really trying to do everything they can to win, and I think that may be it right there. Is that instead of maybe our way or maybe instead of the scheme's way, or maybe instead of the coach's way, or maybe instead of this unit's way, we're trying my way. And I think that's something that we have to all get on the same page with.
As a defensive guy, that's what you're known for. It doesn't mean you don't know all the other stuff as well. How much does it hurt your defensive soul, so to speak, when you have that kind of performance, tackling, assignments, whatever else on Thursday night?
Yeah, it's for sure frustrating, and it angers you really when you watch it, and you think of, and I think it just speaks to just a few weeks ago, right? Here we are making big time stops and kind of really, in a lot of ways, just doing the opposite of that. And it just shows you how, just shows you how this game can, you can't cheat the game, and you have to prepare and work in such a way that, your best. You're going to go. Saturday is going to be judged not by what you think or what you hope, but by what you have, and you got to put all of it in. And so I think what a great lesson to our defenders, and I know there's a call that'll be answered here coming up.
You mentioned the film Don't Lie. There's no question. I mean, that's evidence. What's it like when you play it in front of the team? Is it quiet? Is it murmuring? What's it like?
Yeah, no, it is, and I think those are part of the hump we're trying to get over. I think there's times when the view of the film becomes such a deterrent to their play on Saturday, and I think there's nothing in our film room where it's shame or blame or any of that, but it's like, here's something that happened, here's where we got to get better. I think we've got guys that all try to do well to the ninth degree, that and they're perfectionists by nature, and for sure anxious about doing right and everything else, and then when they get in to a game and they don't do well, there can become a thought of, this is gonna suck to see this in film on Monday or whatever it is, and that's part of the fight we're trying to get, is to not think that way,
right?
To continue to put it all out, to practice on Saturday. I think some of that is affecting the play that we're seeing.
What is the biggest deterrent to you not playing complimentary football?
I think we've got guys that our team is getting in our own way. And you know, it's a failure on my part. I think 95% of coaching is helping people get out of their own way. And right now we're finding ways to get in our own way. And, you know, I think trust the process. I think clearly define what the process is, you know, clearly define, who we want to become, you know, energy and edge and execution, and really kind of show the examples of what that looks like, and show that, hey, we've done this before, right? We did this in this last game with some glimpses here and there. We have to stack these and put these together, and I think that's, you know, winning is always, it's, you know, it takes what it takes. I think that has not changed. Hopefully we have changed.
You had generational players on defense last year with Petrie and Bernard. When you sent them after the quarterback, it didn't take long to get there, and their instincts along with speed was an incredible combination. JT Woods. What's going on with your pass rush? Is it the defensive line, or is it the coverage that's kind of battling each other on who is doing what they're supposed to do?
I think the secondary-wise, there has been there's been such a need to play two high safeties and cover the guys that are covering that has limited the rush component. You know, last year there was much more of an emphasis on single high, and while there still was, you know, some two high being played, not to the extent that we're playing now. And I think some of that has been, probably mid-season or I guess, 3 games ago, 2 games ago. And I think I'm hopeful that we can come out of that, you know, for the sake of our rush, we need to get to where there's more single high and there's more, variations of pressure. Because I think, you know, we continue to cover the guys that are covering. You know, it's the rush that gets hanged out to dry.
Are you playing cover 2 and 3, or are you playing quarters? What are you doing?
A lot of two, and a lot of two-man.
So this team is still pretty good. You just right now the record doesn't show it. You need a win desperately. What would a win mean against Kansas just to get back in the win column?
I think it would bring some energy to guys. I think it would bring probably some validation to the work that they've been putting in throughout these last couple weeks. But then, you know, I think for us to achieve all of it, we have to be able to focus on what's right ahead of us. You know, I think of today, and I think of the team meeting, I think of a special teams meeting, I think of the unit meetings, position meetings, the walkthrough, the practice, you know, and let's knock all of those out with some energy and some focus, and let's, you know, it's our standards versus Kansas's standards today. Let's win today. And I think, you know, that type of emphasis, I think, will get us to where we want to be on a Saturday.
You're a third-year head coach. It's not like you've been coaching for 15 or 20 years as a head coach. The first year was COVID. It was rough. Last year was unbelievable. Best year ever at Baylor history. What have you learned about yourself in third year?
I think that it's, you know, it's a good question. I feel like that, yeah, not everyone's like you know, like me or like you, and so I think, you know, the doing something for an outside, you know, reward, or doing something for what am I going to get. I think those are things where I almost feel like, you know, we're almost training kids to be more that way. And I'm the very opposite of that in a lot of ways. And so I think, you know, having the lens to see that clearly and to always be on the lookout for that, I think is a strong lesson from this year.
Are you disappointed?
No, I think, I think there's always like a learning and growing part of it. I think that, if I turned away and didn't want to see it or didn't want to talk about it or any of that, and then I'd be disappointed.
Last question, personally. Your son plays 7th grade football, and you kind of stand off to the side. I'm sure everyone knows who you are. I had someone tell me, Dave Aranda's son can go. Is it fun? How much fun is it watching him play football?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's he enjoys it. He plays baseball too, and so when COVID hit, he really kind of retracted, and all of a sudden, video games, and there's like these video game chairs, and there's video game headsets, and we're kind of going, what happened to our boy? And while he still has that, I think it's so much better to see him outside and playing sports and being on teams and everything, and so way appreciative and thankful for the coaches and the teams that he's on.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach on 365 Sports. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll also discuss that a little bit later on. Coming up, in fact, next, though, we're going to check in with Illinois with what they've done and being a part and taking control, perhaps, of the Big Ten West. That's next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and perhaps as you've gotten older, used to be. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and that could be as simple as maybe you're gaining some body fat and you don't know why because you're doing everything else right. It could be your sex drive. It could be your sleep habits. It could be your energy and focus. And so why not contact Dr. Kent Petty at pettycliniclowt.com. He will then set you up to get your blood work. He will take care of that and then look at your results. And if your testosterone is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, used to be, and need to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, pool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
You know, there's some really good stories in college football. We have touched in on what TCU did this past weekend and what they are doing, Tennessee with what they're doing, among a few others as well. And then there's Illinois, 6-1 and 3-1 in the West right now, tied with Purdue. Purdue beat Nebraska in a shootout Saturday night. Illinois continues to roll. And Bob Asmussen joins us from the Champaign News-Gazette. Bob, is it a sense of surprise, or is this kind of what Bielema thought he would be, or who they would be this year?
No, it's a miracle. Okay, he thought they would be good. I thought they'd be better, but nobody thought they'd be 6-1. Frankly, they should be 7-0. They lost at Indiana. Should never have lost that game. So. They're 6-1, should be 7-0, but yes, they're way ahead of where people thought they would be. Me particularly, but the head coach says, "No, I knew this was coming." Well, maybe you did, but nobody else really believed that.
What's the biggest change he's made with this team from Lovie Smith?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the defense is played at a really high level, which is odd because Lovie changed his reputation, and then that follows the defensive guy. But these guys are just doing things different. They're more aggressive. They're just making plays all over the place. They're rushing faster. They're getting turnovers. They're just really playing well. Their defensive coordinator is going to be gone soon. That's good for him. Probably not good for Illinois, but yeah, that's a big part. Another thing is offense is a lot better. This year, if you've got a new coordinator, they're doing a good Barry Lundy Jr., and they're great running back, a decent line, good quarterback transfer. So everything's better here. It's kind of, again, miracle is probably an overstatement, but it's close.
Tommy DeVito, you mentioned the quarterback change. I remember following him prior to Illinois, but just what kind of impact specifically has he made for this team?
Well, first of all, he's accurate as heck. He completes every pass. I think last week it was 13 of the first 14 or something like that. So that just gains a lot of confidence on the team. It just gives them another dimension that they haven't had in a while. It's funny because had he stayed at Syracuse, he'd be undefeated there. So I think they're 6-0 and Illinois 6-1.
Yeah.
But he had good choices. But yeah, plus he's confident. He's a good guy. He's been a joy to cover. And actually, I think you have to put it to Chase Brown first. But I think Tommy DeVito, his play this year is second to Chase Brown in terms of importance for this team.
So this is the first time since 1983 that they've beaten Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota in the same year?
Correct. That's unbelievable. I was born by then, but not by much. And I was not covering Illinois then, for sure. And that's kind of shows you how far they've come. Nebraska won't be part of that deal because obviously they haven't been in the league that long. But the Illinois is set up for a really special season. I look at it, 8 or 9 wins at a minimum right now. So it's pretty amazing given where they've been the last 5. They haven't had the winning season guys in 10 years. So that's kind of crazy.
I was looking at the defense and what they've done. every single defensive stat. Somebody just mentioned this to us, Bob, on the chat room. Look at the defensive stats, and they're in the top 10 among every one of them. From third down efficiency to defensive efficiency, stoppage, first downs allowed, all back and forth. What did they do?
Well, first of all, again, give Levy a little bit of credit because he brought a lot of the guys in.
Mm-hmm.
So this defensive line that's playing out, lights out, they're all Levy guys. And they just matured. They're a lot better now than they were with him as freshmen. They're playing great. Keith Randolph and Johnny Newton are two of the best players in the Big Ten right now. Not just that defensive line, but I'm talking about any position. They're going to be NFL draft players, NFL players for sure, I would think. And they're just playing at a high level. But there's not just them. It's a lot of guys. Devin Witherspoon at corner is playing great. Linebackers are playing really well. They're just doing everything right. I think they thought they would be better, but last year they made such a jump defensively. This year they're making another jump that's just kind of off the charts.
Looking down the stretch, obviously they have Michigan coming up. Do you think it's reasonable that this is a team that could be 10-2 at the end of the year?
I do. Actually, I wrote this morning. I never thought it'd be talking about Illinois going into the top 10 this year. That's just crazy. And yes, I think they can be 10-2. I think Michigan's going to be that's a tough challenge for Illinois, no matter where the game is, but it's up there. So now somebody said today they beat everybody, which would include Ohio State, play in the title game. They're not completely out of the playoff, which is just, again, crazy. So, yeah, I think 10-2 is reasonable. Possible. Not going to happen for sure, but it can happen.
So, Bob, I asked you earlier about Tommy DeVito, and as you mentioned, Chase Brown's really the straw that stirs the drink. He's already surpassed his rushing totals from last year, crossed the 1,000-yard mark, and we're, halfway through the season at this point. He's been downright special. How would you put into words how special he's been and how much he is that engine in this ride for the Illini?
Well, I've covered this team for 33 years. He's the best running back I've seen here. And that includes the all-time leading rusher at Illinois, Robert Holcomb. You guys might remember plays with the Rams. But other than him, this guy's the best player I've seen at running back. And that Rashard Mendenhall had a great couple of seasons here. This guy's playing better. And he's going to put himself in the Heisman race, which is, again, crazy. Because nobody was mentioning him preseason as the Heisman guy. Now you have to. So, yeah, he's just been special. Plus, it's a great story. He's a twin, the identical twin that's on the team. He's a really good player, too, at Sydney. And they're from Canada. So it's all sorts of great fun stuff with him, too. Good guy, great player. They're all good students. It's just like you couldn't have a better story with a guy with like Chase Brown and his brother, Sydney.
Bob Asmussen, again, Champaign News-Gazette on Illinois. And what they're doing at 6-1, the one loss by 3 to Indiana on the road. Nebraska, after an off week, they put up some points, but we know they're a mess. And then, of course, Michigan State down the road, Purdue, who's right now tied with them. You know, this is a fun story. And Wisconsin has kind of run the West. Iowa's been a part of that conversation. What is kind of the talk in Champaign about what they're doing about Brent Bielema right now?
Well, they think they can have a situation here like he had in Wisconsin, where you're contending for the West title every year. I think they think that can happen. I think it's happening sooner than they thought. But now the question is, when does he get paid? Because they're going to have to pay him. Now, I wouldn't give him Michigan State money like they did with their coach, Mel Tucker, but I think he's going to get a nice raise. His assistants are going to get nice raises. So he's set up, and he loves it here. And think about it. Illinois gave him a chance to come back and be a head coach again. And he's from the state, so it's kind of perfect. He built a house in Champaign, huge house. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been told it's a monster. He's happy here, so I think he's the coach here if he wants to be for the next 10 years or so, till he retires and moves up to Florida, wherever those guys go.
Bob, we've touched on some of the bright spots that are glaring bright spots with DeVito and the defense and Chase Brown and all that. But what's perhaps something you've seen through this first half of the season that you feel like might come back to bite them if they don't improve it a little or correct it, what have you? What's perhaps a weakness for Illinois at the moment?
A couple things. Special teams, not really all their fault, but the kicker is hurt, and he's got a groin problem. They're using a transfer from Air Force, doing a good job, but special teams has been an issue, and depth across the board, every spot. If DeVito got hurt, they have a problem. He played last week on a sprained ankle. He's got to play. He will play. But depth across the board and kicker, special teams, kind of an issue. They'll get that fixed, but I think down the road that'll be a problem. They'll fix later. Right now, it's just get through the year, get everybody healthy. It's a great time for them to have a week off, honestly, because they all were bumped and bruised. They needed some time to get healed. I think they'll be better for Nebraska and beyond.
Bob, how much are their defensive stats also, not that they're not playing really with defense, I mean, they're like leading the country in numerous categories, but how much also is the style of play in the Big Ten, and they haven't had and won't have to play until perhaps the championship game, Ohio State?
Oh, it definitely helps. And you're right, they're not playing, they have played a 9-6 game against Iowa. So that kind of tells you your stats are not going to be huge in that game. They came back and played really well against Minnesota this way last week, really dominated that game. So but you're right, it's partly style, and they didn't play a lot of great conference teams either. So, and they've, no Ohio State yet, no Penn State on the schedule. So they've really got a break schedule-wise, but still they're playing really well. Are they top 10 defense? No question. Are they top 2 defense? Maybe not, but they're getting there, and they're doing all the things they can do to get there. And I just think we'll see them continue to play like this as long as everybody stays healthy.
By the way, 9-6 against Iowa is a shootout. 9-6 with Iowa is a shootout. Hey, they struggle, as we know, with what they do, play good defense. Thanks for your time, Bob. Great stuff from you, and good luck going forward. The off week, get a break, and then, of course, Nebraska, then Michigan State. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Their defense, and until someone mentioned this, I knew they were playing defense. Bielema's going to want to do that and then run the football. Number 1 in team pass efficiency on defense. Number 4 in the country, third down conversions. Number 4 in the country in overall first downs allowed. Number 3 in the country in allowing yards rushing per game. Number 1 in the country in scoring defense, under 9 points a game. And then total defense, just combined everything, number 1 in the country.
Yeah, and Brent Bielema's clearly a fit in the Big Ten. He tried his hand at the SEC. That didn't work out. I know he went to the Bill Belichick school of rehabbing coaches, which doesn't always work, but it has for him. I think Illinois is a fit. It's a lot like the Wisconsin job was for him, where he was very successful and very consistent. And I don't know about getting players to Champaign, because it's not something we've ever talked about before regularly, is recruiting there. But if he can recruit there and get some guys in there and work the transfer portal, as a guy who leads a program, I have faith for him to be pretty consistent.
It woke everybody up when he beat the team he used to coach in Wisconsin. And that's gotta hurt Wisconsin. All right, when we come back, our tour of teams that on the radar. UCLA, Ben Bolch, we had been on a couple of different times when it came to whatever the Pac-12 was doing with possibility of expansion or realignment or whatever else in between, TV deals. We'll have him. We'll have open discussion at 5 on many things college football, and then Ari Wasserman on the TCU win against Oklahoma State. He'll join us at 5:20. Paul's top 5 as well, and yes, we'll discuss the NFL with David Hellman. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Every month there's always a discount offer. There's dealer discounts. There's what also the dealership Ted Teague is offering. And then whatever, of course, Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram, what those particular brands and companies are offering. Right now, bottom line is this. It's we're in the fall, so to speak. And their cars and trucks and SUVs for you are right there waiting for you. And they have a ton of pre-owned as well, because I bought a pre-owned car. I brought a Ford Explorer from them, and it's the nicest car I've driven, and I can't even imagine how long. It's great to be able to know that there are no issues, and if there are, then I can just take them straight back to the dealership with a bumper-to-bumper warranty and let them deal with it. They also have the best in trucks, in Ram trucks. They have the great brand of Jeep, the Grand Cherokee, among others, Chargers and Challengers, and much, much more. They are loaded up with cars, trucks, and SUVs. Alan Samuels with Ted Teague and Company at Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
We're fighting hard at Pickup Outfitters in our battle to end truck nudity. But it's not just about putting an outfit on a naked truck, it's about making sure you have the very best customer service. So we offer the Pickup Outfitters Lifetime Installation Guarantee. Over time, sometimes your outfit needs a little tune-up, maybe some tightening, adjusting, whatever. If you outfitted your truck at Pickup Outfitters, that tune-up is absolutely no charge for the remainder of the time you own that truck. We also offer free warranty assistance. If for any reason you need to use your warranty, you just bring it back to us and we take care of it. It just makes sense. I mean, operating without a promise like that would be like offering customer service in the nude. And if you've seen our staff, trust me, you don't want that. So do your part to end truck nudity by outfitting your truck, Jeep, SUV, or van at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, where we promise to serve you fully clothed. Check out our website, createacommotion.com.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
This 4 o'clock hour, Ben Bolch will join us from the LA Times on UCLA as they're about to play Oregon in a matchup of top 10 teams. And we showed you that graphic earlier in the show that it's been since 2018 since the Pac-12 has had 2 teams play each other, both ranked in the top 10. And it's UCLA, which might be a surprise to some. And then, of course, what Oregon's done, bouncing back from the first week early loss to Georgia. Ben Bolch, LA Times, joins us. Ben, we just had a writer that covers Illinois. That's a great story. TCU, that's a great story. How much of a surprise is what we see from UCLA up until this point?
Well, I think it's a surprise nationally. I think those who had tracked the program kind of knew something like this was kind of coming, just based on when you have as many experienced players at key positions like UCLA does, fifth-year starting quarterback, fourth-year running back, some other key guys who are graduate transfers, it kind of sets up for this kind of season. Now, obviously, UCLA has not been in this mix for this kind of success in 2 decades, but I think those of us who kind of cover the program and around a lot saw the potential for something like this.
How fortuitous was it that this has happened this season with the announcement of the move to the Big Ten and Lincoln Riley's arrival at your crosstown rival in USC, that UCLA is making waves so that they can get some of these recruits to stay home in LA as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, because with USC's resurgence, if UCLA had an average or down year, it really tilts the recruiting landscape in USC's favor. And also, it's a showcase for UCLA on the national stage, with people in Midwest and East Coast now paying closer attention to UCLA, knowing that they're headed to the Big Ten. They want to see if they're going to be an option for somewhere where high school kids can go play who live in those areas. So, yeah, it's the perfect time for UCLA to have this kind of season and put itself on the map.
What kind of improvements have you seen from Dorian Thompson-Robinson? He was a good player prior to this year for anybody that was watching UCLA and paying attention to college football on the West Coast, but he's obviously burst onto the scene in a different type of way. Why do you think that is, and what are kind of the points behind that?
Well, the big thing is consistency. I mean, we saw in the last 3 games of last season, he was playing as well as anybody in the country. Had that big hurdle in the SC game, helped them put up 62 points in the rivalry game. But the big question was, could he do it over the course of the season? And so far, he hasn't really had any hiccups. He's played at a super high level for 6 consecutive games, and if he can keep that going, UCLA is probably going to win a lot more games.
So the Pac-12, and Paul brought up the tumultuous summer, good news for USC and UCLA. It seems like there's some people stepping up. UCLA has won. Utah just beat USC. Oregon has bounced back. How much right now is there a pride factor in the conference that, man, we just got to get better?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a conference that hasn't put anybody in the playoffs since 2016, since Washington got there and lost pretty handily in the semifinal. So, they want to plant their flag. Obviously SC and UCLA are leaving, but they're still part of this, and they want to go out, putting this conference on top. It's taken so many hits, and deservedly so, in recent years. But there's some real quality depth up there at the top of those 4 teams you talked about. I mean, there's still, you could make a case that any one of those 4 not only could win the conference, but could be worthy of a playoff spot. So, right now, as it's positioned, the Pac-12 is in the mix to make some noise at the highest level of college football.
Have you seen the attendance start to uptick, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've seen, season high crowds at the Rose Bowl 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, I think you're alluding to the fact that it was a national story early in the year, how small the crowds were. Troy Aikman took the shot at his alma mater. We had the 2 smallest crowds UCLA's ever had at the history of the Rose Bowl. But, I think it's building, and it's only going to continue to build, especially if they can beat Oregon this week, move to 7-0. You're going to see some. They've had some tarps come off that could come off, and get closer to sellout level that they're kind of accustomed to when the program's rolling.
Ben, in terms of big anticipated matchups or just highly ranked matchups, where does this rank most recent times and under Chip Kelly, this Oregon game?
Oh, it's the biggest by far, and that's the great thing about you keep winning. It basically sets up the biggest game of your time at UCLA every week, especially if you stay undefeated in the mix for not only the Rose Bowl but the college football playoff. So, the thing that's interesting about this week to me, though, is it's Oregon, right? I mean, that's what Chip Kelly's known for, is his success at Oregon. So if he can go back to Oregon and beat the Ducks when they're both top 10 teams, maybe we can start talking about Chip Kelly, having done something besides what he did at Oregon, right? Because that's what everybody talks about when they talk about Chip Kelly's success he's had at Oregon. But if he has a season he wants and finishes this one out strong, people can start talking about what he did at UCLA.
Greg brought up Dorian Thompson-Robinson, what a year he's having. What about Zach Charbonnet and what he's put up?
Yeah, he's quietly, which is a great word for him because he's so reserved and quiet. He's quietly put himself in the mix for a Heisman-type season. He had almost 200 yards in that huge victory over Utah. Pretty much, is a 100-yard guy plus every week. And does it with UCLA going to more of a pass-oriented attack this season, which makes it all the more impressive. But, yeah, he's the perfect complement that you need with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And that's why, one of your first questions, that it wasn't so much of a surprise to me because when you have a Zach Charbonnet to go with what else they have on offense, you're going to score a lot of points.
You mentioned, or Paul asked about the stadium attendance, and it's L.A., we get it, and it's unfortunate that it's not better, although it's getting that way now that they are getting this much attention. What is, if you thought about every day on sports talk radio in L.A., how much of it is a percentage of college football with USC, UCLA, or anything college football at all?
You mean how much are they talking about it on the local station?
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny. Not much at all. I barely ever do any local radio spots. Pretty much all my spots are from visiting teams, if you can believe that. This is a Dodgers town, a Lakers town. Now we have the Rams and Chargers. They've kind of taken over the football landscape alongside with USC football. So UCLA is still, considerably operating in the shadows. But let me tell you, if they win this Oregon game, it's going to be a whole new ball game with potentially a top 5 or 6 team. I think that's going to be kind of the turning point to get them in the spotlight.
Yeah, that means you bring out the glitz and glamour in LA, right? They want to be at whatever matters.
Yeah, absolutely right. And especially, now that the Dodgers are out of the playoffs, Lakers look like they might not be very good again this year. USC just lost. So, it's time for UCLA. It's set up for them to really take that next step and get some of that shine.
Yeah, that Dodgers, that's got to hurt. 111 wins, and they're done. Wow.
Yeah, very reminiscent to me. I always remember that great Seattle Mariners team back in 2001 that everybody thought was just going to plow through everybody, and they stumbled in the first round. Truly stunning.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate your time. Always glad to have you on. Ben Bolch, LA Times on UCLA, unbeaten. Oregon this week, 2:30 game. So they just, of course, 2 weeks ago beat 15th-ranked Washington, then beat 11th-ranked Utah, and now they have 10th-ranked, depending on which poll, 9th or 10th-ranked Oregon this weekend. That's a pretty good little run, a chance to put themselves more on the map and where they are in the top 10.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, I hate that they have such a lackluster following. You wouldn't guess it by, necessarily Twitter, as Paul learned a couple weeks back. But, there's just, it is what it is. It'd be cool if they cared as much as, let's say, the folks in Knoxville did, But, yeah, they've played really well. It's always funny because I always loosely follow along with UCLA the past couple years because doing award stuff, you go through all these box scores and everything. So I'd always see Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet and all these guys like over and over and over again. Never really sat down and really watched them a ton. But this year they're appointment television as far as, West Coast games go. And certainly this weekend will be. So yeah, if you haven't checked them out just yet, they're a fun team. I mean, they really are. DTR is a great player. Charbonnet is a great player. They got more than that too. They got, other skill guys and whatnot to enjoy. But yeah, this is a very curious game. I'm guessing it'll probably be on the pick'ems. I don't know, but I assume it will. And I don't know which direction I'm leaning right now. Yeah, but I've doubted UCLA a couple times this year, and they've proven now at this point that they're not to be doubted. They're for real, and their record shows, or their schedule shows why their record is for real.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody's going to react to me by saying, yeah, they're good. I admit it, they're good. I speculated at the beginning of the year. I was curious about Chip Kelly's. So far, proven me wrong, and they're rolling along. They're a fun team. They're good, and I do know that the Rose Bowl is a really hard stadium to fill in a city that size. The reason that stadiums like Neyland Stadium and Kyle Field and Bryant Denny can get filled is because there's not that's what's going on in that town that day. That's what's happening. In LA, that's one of a million things that's going on in that town that day. I do hope that they do get more of a surge of it, but they're fun to watch. Chip Kelly's doing it, and I don't back off anything I said. I mean, things change. Sports are fluid. Jock Taylor told me a long time ago, used to say, what's true today is not necessarily true tomorrow in sports.
Sometimes by the end of the day.
Yeah. So things are fluid. So that's the great thing is I don't have to keep any opinion I have. I can morph.
You're just going right back down that rabbit hole, and I'm not going to let you do it. Hummus Hero, the Pac-12 has more wins, by the way, playoff wins, and the Big 12 all bet just one. That's not a compliment for either conference. They both have to do better. They've had their opportunities.
It's like the bottom of the barrel fighting over the one win. But they do. That's cool.
From Roger the Dodger, who made the comment when I asked about media coverage, he goes, "That's wrong. It's like 6% coverage on the radio." That's probably like most major towns and most major markets. For example, in Dallas, there's like maybe a segment a week on college football, but that's about it.
I think right now Dallas folks are pretending again to love college football. This is what they normally do, and I know we got a lot of friends in Dallas media, but I listened to it enough over the years to know that college football is a convenience thing. It's like if Texas is really good, then imagine that they're talking about that, or A&M or whatever. And right now TCU is playing well, so it's given them a reason to talk college football more than they would ever if TCU wasn't good, or SMU, the last couple of years. But it's just, you got the Cowboys to talk about. And after last night, after that, are you, as a Dallas radio host, talking TCU, or are you talking Cowboys? You're talking Cowboys, you know? So 100%. That's just part of the deal.
I do know that when it's a low time for the Rangers and the Mavericks haven't started, when I do like 3 radio hits in a month in DFW, I'll get calls and I'll be like, oh, well, they're throwing me in there a little bit. Yeah.
Like I saw Sean Sharif shouting out Sonny Dykes, because I guess they had probably had him on, and I don't know, they might have a regular show. I don't know, but that was like, man, you don't normally see that.
That was a one-time appearance.
Yeah, so it's like, you normally don't see that. But again, they've got the Cowboys to talk about, and then shooting LA, you got 2 NFL teams, you got 2 NBA teams, you got 2 baseball teams. I mean, they're working with. They got 2 hockey teams with the Ducks and the Kings. So yeah, there's a lot cooking out there.
Roger the Dodger, USC and UCLA have radio stations for their games. I cannot fathom a major market or even a college football program not having a radio station or flagship. So
it's not non-existent. It's just that it's not a bulk of the conversation.
It's the coverage around it. That's different.
And again, Roger said LA was just spoiled with broadcasters like Chip Hearn, Chick Hearn, and also Vin Scully. These guys are homers. That's fine. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are when it comes to college football broadcasters, and some of them are, you wouldn't know who they're broadcasting. They're just damn good. And then Humus Hero on the one about the Pac-12 and Big 12 playoff wins. I laugh out loud. I just find it a crazy little stat, honestly. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Way to go, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tongue-in-cheek saying that because I do love the Sooners, but yeah, I mean, they had the cracks at it, and they couldn't get it done with the crew of quarterbacks they had, unfortunately.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something if UCLA this year had the best year between they and USC? And it's still, again, it's all about power. We understand that and all that, and they are the ones that have the big year. They still have USC down the road. And that Utah-USC game, that was fun to watch. It really was. That was a great way to wrap up otherwise an incredible Saturday and weekend of college football. All right, when we're coming back to 5 o'clock hour, we'll read some of your chat room comments, which we just did, the text line as well, and so much more. College football as we come off an amazing weekend. Your thoughts. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. In the Central Texas marketplace, I will say this. I don't know how far you might be away. Some of you are in different states, different parts of the country. I get it. But if you're in an area where you could get to Waco, if you have an MRI scheduled or need one scheduled, and your doctor has said that they want to help you set it up, and you want to save money, bunch of money, a ton of money, the average MRI is about $1,100, which means there are some much more than that, $497 or less. At a business here in Waco, Ideal MRI, idealmri.com. To get what you need from the state-of-the-art technology, the MRI machine that they use, the techs and specialists, the doctors who read them, and they get the information right back to your doctor immediately. I've been inside the MRI machine, I think it's now 4 times. There was a couple of times I paid $497. There was also a couple of times I paid less. It's $497 or less. If you need an MRI, it's worth the drive, it's worth the time, and it's surely worth what you want to help save your budget at idealmri.com.
During Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels, our great selection of new cars and trucks come with amazing deals and competitive financing that makes you ask, why shop anywhere else? The new 2022 Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. These legendary, award-winning trucks give you that first-class feel. Luxurious leather trim seating options, exceptional legroom and storage, plus surround view camera options you'd expect from a premium truck. Come see our selection today or browse online at allensamuelsdcj.com.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Let Camille Johnston Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnston Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnston Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnston Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnston Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Play action, Chapin over the middle, caught, Holmes, gone, touchdown, Baylor. A strike from Chapin.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
5 o'clock hour in 15 minutes or so. Ari Wasserman, theathletic.com, had a great feature on TCU's win against Oklahoma State. We'll check in with David Hellman on the Cowboys-Eagles game last night and some NFL notes on some former Baylor players. And then Paul's top 5 at the very end of the show. Don't forget tonight, Sports Tonight, 10:30 on the CW channel. We'll have the full hour of this show condensed thanks to what Emery Winter does for us on an everyday basis. And our pregame show Saturday will be 9 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock kick against Kansas, and that will be on KWTX, the CBS Monster affiliate in Waco. All right? Now, from the 903, what's with the insane number of penalties this year? Are teams less disciplined, or are the referees inserting themselves more? I thought we were trying to speed up the game. Nate in Fort Worth. And Nate in Fort Worth, thanks for the text.
I don't know if there's, you might see some more undisciplined teams. I don't know. Sometimes you see games where you don't have penalties happen hardly at all in the first half. And then, I don't know. I don't think there's more. I just think that I think there's a lot of work to be done on officiating through all levels of football. So I think you might see it more. I think what's slowing down the game is the fact that, in a lot of conferences, they have to meet forever and ever and ever before they make decisions.
That's the part that frustrates me. Craig?
Yeah, I don't think there's more penalties this year than normal.
I don't know, man. Things seem wonky to me. Yeah. It seems like there's just some real fishy stuff going on both the pro and the college level. And I'm not, Mr. Aluminum foil guy by any means, but I'm just watching these games, and as soon as it gets to a critical juncture, it's like the whole thing stops down, or some massive call goes a certain way. Like, Alabama, Tennessee, there were some calls. I know Alabama fans probably felt like, oh my gosh, every time we're getting close to doing something, like there's another penalty. Well, you look back on review and they were legitimate penalties. So you have to call those, but I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain why it seems like that or why it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it's just happening in bigger games more often. I'm not really sure. Maybe officials are scared to not make a call, and so they feel like they have to call every little thing. I don't know. I'm seeing it at the high school level. We watched games the last 2 weeks of like 20-plus penalties. It's ridiculous. So I wish I knew the answer, but I really don't know. It does, to me, though, seem like there's a lot more of that going on at high school level, at the college level, at the NFL level, and I'm not sure what it is. I'm sure part of it probably does have to do with inexperience, just the fact that there aren't like a bunch of very well-trained officials across all levels now. There's a shortage, as we've talked about before. Maybe that plays somewhat into it. Maybe it's just the fact that you've got replay to rely on for every little thing now at this point. I don't know. But, yeah, I've definitely felt like officiating has been a little out of whack this season for sure.
I'll tell you the part. I think there's so many different rules, and it's almost like trying to open up the NCAA rule book or maybe the tax laws. To me, the game is over-officiated. I do not, and I hate it when anyone wants to go down the rabbit hole of this specific call may cost a team a game, because especially if there's time left, or maybe you had played 55 minutes of game time, why didn't you make that one more play? So that's what but the part that is driving me crazy is the amount of meetings, conferences. A left tackle moves early. Number 75, false start, 5 yards, mark it and move on. And it just seems like even something simple like that is taking a long time. I watched a game, and I don't golly, I marked it in my head, and of course that's dangerous. I watched a game the other day, probably late Saturday night, where there was a very close, maybe a mark of a ball or something, and there was no review. In the Big 12, and I don't have facts, I think they have more reviews than any other conference in America.
Well, I think technology makes it harder to officiate games and not easier, at least on the human level, because there's a tremendous amount of pressure to get what you saw in front of you exactly right, even though it's happening so fast. We all get to see in slow motion, but in real time, it's this way. And I think that's because of the reviews. I think it's also led to some quick trigger fingers on things like, you see some maybe phantom holding calls or phantom personal fouls because it looks like this way to you, And if the other guy didn't see it, because I've seen in the last couple weeks a couple of picked up calls where you're like, oh, thank God the other guy saw it, but they don't see it. They don't see it, and you're dealing with these calls. But I think they're doing that because of the psychological pressure to make sure you don't miss anything, because the camera sees all. But the flip side of the coin is the camera sees when you threw a flag when you shouldn't have either.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be some kind of balance on that I don't know if we can get to. And I do think that they are, in certain cases on all levels, over-legislating rules, where they've made it so complicated that you have to call penalties on everything.
I tell you, another thing that I wonder if the reviews, when you see an explosive play like a collision, there's going to be 9 times out of 10 a flag, because they can always overrule your flag. But I was always taught, and I had friends of mine that were officiating, and at not just the high school level, but high-level college, where they used to say, you don't throw a flag if you actually didn't see it. So if you see a collision, but you don't know whether it was targeting or defenseless or whatever, then why did you throw the flag? Because it can be overruled? You're protected there? That's the part that I wonder if you can throw it because it now protects you, rather than you would think that if you don't throw it and then they look at it, they could always then rule that there was targeting. I'd rather not throw it and have them look at that and change the decision than throw it and have them change my decision. There will be debate forever among Iowa State fans and UT fans at the end of that game on the Decker's fumble. But it happens all the time on whether or not it's targeting or not. I think the targeting, I get why they're doing it, but I think it's gotten out of control. I really
targeting
do.
Sucks. The rule sucks. It's ridiculous. That causes as many stop downs as anything is the targeting. And I am not at all advocating for its abolishment and like, hey, just let guys go get head injuries and don't have any repercussions for what could cause concussions by any means. But the way that they handle it now is it's no fun for the game. That's for sure. It's certainly useful, and it certainly needs to be intact in some form or fashion. But the way it just stops down things at this point, and every collision's now reviewed for targeting, whether it was or not. There is no flow to college football games. Whether it's TV timeouts, after every little thing, it's like, hey, they just scored. Let's go to commercial. Here's the extra point. Let's go back to commercial. Here's the kickoff. Let's go to commercial. It's like, what? How are you supposed to enjoy that? Like, I get that's how they make their money, but it's like, the last 20 minutes of action, 15 minutes of being commercials, and you add in reviews for targeting calls that may or may not have been targeting. And I mean, it's no wonder they last 3.5 to 4 hours for a 62-7 game that has no business going more than a couple of hours. And that started to trickle down to the high school level without all of the cameras and everything involved. And it's just not fun to watch the game when it's herky-jerky as it can be sometimes. Yeah,
we've had, the last 2 weeks of our high school games, we've had crews that have really enjoyed coming together.
Dude.
They really like that. Let's stop down and let's get everybody together. And that back judge who's 56 years old and has to,
Dude, we got high school games lasting 3 hours that are like 4 touchdown contests, and it's just like there's no business for it to be that way, but that's where we are. And
that one we did Friday, Craig, was 3.5, 3:45.
Yeah, I know, and had absolutely no business being more than 2. But it was because every other play was a flag for some reason or another, and it got to be way too much. And I do wish there was an easier answer, a more simplistic answer, but then, inevitably, if you complain at all about officials, then I'm sure, you'll get a message about, well, you have no idea how hard it is. It's like, it's not even coming from that point of view. It's just saying that, there's just a little bit too much of you going on in this game. We respect what you do. Thanks for doing it. You're one of the few that still will. But, the art of what you do doesn't mean it's, immune to criticism.
It's like an umpire
just because you don't have a bunch of people to fill spots doesn't mean that we can't sit there and talk about the actual rules that you're trying to enforce and whether or not they're, ridiculous or manageable or what have you.
It's an umpire who takes over a baseball game or wants to be the show, and there's somebody like Ichiro or Barry Bonds or now these cases, of course, Ohtani and others, or Mike Trout at the plate, and they want to be the show. Real quick note, men's basketball, the AP Top 25 just came out. North Carolina, number 1 in the country. Gonzaga is 2. Houston at 3 with Kelvin Sampson with what he has. Kentucky and KU 4 and 5. Baylor at 6. Duke and UCLA. UCLA is 8. Creighton is 9. And then Arkansas. with Musselman with what he's done at number 10. Texas is 12 from the Big 12. TCU is 14th. Jamie Dixon with a great run they made last year. And Texas Tech is at number 25. So the AP men's basketball, and of course we'll have some of that coverage as well, what we do here on 365 Sports. Ari Wasserman, theathletic.com, he wrote, and he and Andy Staples, and I wish we had time for this part of it, when they went on a tour, and they were at A&M for the Yell Leader and all that. It was fantastic, but we're talking to him today about TCU and their win against Oklahoma State in a game that probably gets overshadowed even with what we've talked about as well. Ari, thanks for your time. How exciting was that game, and your thoughts about what the Frogs have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The game was not very exciting for three quarters, but they, TCU made this amazing comeback where, they erased a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter on their home floor, on the home field. And, when you're one of the three games that pits two 5-0 teams together in the same weekend for the second time in college football history, and you find a way to get it done against a team like Oklahoma State, which has won games like that regularly, that's a huge, move. Now, I don't necessarily know what that means for TCU in terms of, where they're going to be at the end of the year, but, considering where they were a year ago and now moving into the top 10 and remaining unbeaten, heading into a weekend where they're hosting another top 20 team, it's a really good spot for them, so I was like at the game like everybody else, and everybody, including me, was watching the Alabama game on their computer while they were covering it. And I kind of got, thought to myself, like, we're all locked in on this Alabama-Tennessee game, and right in front of our faces is an undefeated team versus an undefeated team, and what turned out to be a very exciting game. So that's kind of what helped me, get to the column idea that I had, and, moving in that direction is a huge step for them.
Do you think they have staying power, or do you think that the rest of the Big 12 being as close as it is, and that there's, anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend, will ultimately trip up TCU or any other Big 12 team trying to get to the playoff?
Well, that's the thing about the Big 12. And, I covered Ohio State and was in the Big 10 for a decade of my life, and I'm still trying to get acquainted to the Big 12 Texas, football type stuff. And, the one thing I've noticed is that, all these Big 12 games for the most part have like 3-point spreads, and they just kind of beat up on each other in a very, different way than the other Power 5 conferences. Ohio State and Clemson and, Alabama and Georgia kind of run through their schedules and don't lose very often. But in the Big 12, the champion is rarely undefeated, and, you have surprising results all the time. I mean, even Texas, who is, trying to, get back on track and be what it can be if it reaches potential, almost lost to Iowa State on Saturday, So, like, when you say, does this have staying power, I guess it depends on what you mean by that. Do I think they're going to go out and win the national title this year or make the playoff? I think that would be kind of a big ask for expectations. But I do think that the good news for them is that there's nobody on their schedule that they can't beat, which is a very exciting thing when you're sitting here at 6-0. But the flip side of it is that I don't know if there's anybody left in their schedule who, if they put together a very good game, can't beat them. So, that to me is kind of what makes the Big 12 exciting. And, even after Texas and Oklahoma depart to the SEC, I hope that the conference will continue to get some attention nationally, because I just think it's an exciting conference to watch. And, every time TCU plays between now and when and if they lose, I mean, that's a team that you need to respect and tune in and make sure that you're not missing anything.
Ari, we got to watch Quentin Johnston here in high school. He just was down the road about a half hour and played in the same district of the school that we cover. So we got to see him on the come up and knew he was exceptionally talented. And now it's cool to see the rest of the country starting to catch on to that. Max Duckin didn't start off the year as a starter, which is now well publicized, but has quickly, become the man there in Fort Worth. Just curious your impressions of seeing those two up close and personal, and what your thoughts were.
Well, I was really impressed with Max, and I've been watching him on TV for the past few years now, and I know that he had some injury issues and stuff. But like that kid, it was like it didn't even occur to him, even when they were losing for 3/4 of that game, that they could lose. And to see him throw for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns and lead drives and have that gutsy run in overtime to get them down to the one that they eventually punched in for the win. I mean, the resolve of the quarterback is probably the most important thing that you need to count on when you're talking about a team that is trying to move forward and navigate a tough conference and stay unbeaten. So, both of those guys you mentioned are very good. And, the fact of the matter is that whenever you're leaning on people who are from Texas and they're on the team that you're talking about in that state, it's a huge get. Now, I know that Max is from Iowa, but like that is a nice 1-2 punch you were just talking about. And I think, TCU's got good players, man. And that's one thing that Sonny Dykes said, like, after the game. It's like, how do you make this turnaround? He said it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have good players. And anybody who has followed anything that I've written on The Athletic over the course of the past 3 years since I became a national reporter knows how much I emphasize the importance of talent. And, TCU's got quite a bit.
So can you try to describe the scene? That's kind of how you started out, the fans on Amon Carter's face, and just kind of how cool that moment was for not just TCU, but Sonny Dykes in the program.
Yeah. I was actually at Bryant Denny Stadium the weekend before, and that was one of the louder stadiums I've ever been in. And I'll be honest with you guys, like, I was kind of disappointed by the first three quarters, the crowd noise. It was very kind of subdued, even when Oklahoma State had the ball. But that place came alive in a big way there in the fourth quarter when TCU was mounting its comeback. And I got to go down to the field and watch the overtime from the sideline. And, it was a very nice environment once people kind of woke up. So definitely a fun place to go. I think the stadium is beautiful. It's a great place to cover a game. The view from the press box is amazing. And the fans there really seemed to buy into it once things got really exciting there at the end. But was a little bit, honestly, disappointed by the lack of noise for the first three quarters, especially when Oklahoma State had the ball.
They are they're kind of new to it, right? About being kind of super into games. I think certain fans need to kind of adjust what goes on because that's not how most of their games go in their history.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, that I have to realize about myself, and I'm kind of trying to adjust this, is I covered Ohio State for 10 years, and they played in a very big stadium.
Yeah.
And that stadium at times wasn't very loud, but when it was loud, it was really loud. And every single time I went on the road with Ohio State, the stadium that I was in was at peak capacity because anytime a team like that comes in, they have their best crowds. So, like, my viewpoint, I think, of what's regular, both, with expectations on the field and, of course, crowd atmospheres has kind of been skewed a little bit by my background, too. So, as I'm trying to, ease into this national role and see new places and experience new things, I'm really kind of resetting the bar of what's normal in the sport. And, environment, in my opinion, isn't always about the crowd noise either. Like, there's stadiums and, atmospheres and people who are bought in, and TCU certainly had all those things.
Ari, I was curious on the opposite side of, what you were able to pick up impression-wise from the disappointment with Oklahoma State. Obviously, Spencer Sanders is not full health, and that's going to be a big storyline this week. But just kind of your thoughts on what you saw from the Cowboys side of things.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to the game, like, in my mind, in the first quarter and, into the second quarter when it seemed like Oklahoma State was kind of rolling, I was looking up numbers about Mike Gundy and, the 10-win seasons that he's had there and the start that they had to the year this year and, coming up just short of the Big 12 championship last year. And, I was going to write a column about how underappreciated they are as a team that consistently gets it done, despite the fact that it's not recruiting at the same level as the other program in its state, So it didn't work out that way. And obviously you've got to write with what went on. But, Oklahoma State's been a team that, consistently over the years has been a very tough out conference. And I'll tell you one thing, they were very disappointed with the way that game ended because, if you look at Oklahoma State's situation too, if they would have won that game, they were, had like a one-way ticket to the, potentially being the front runner to go to the Big 12 championship game. Now, the tough thing about this conference is that the standings and they're all kind of clumped together a little bit. And there's a lot of teams, Texas included, who Oklahoma State's playing this weekend, all seem to have a nice path to the championship game. And, it was a tough one that they let slip away there.
Ari, as you mentioned, and you've covered recruiting, and I know you mentioned covering Ohio State or whatever. It kind of sounds like being here and being at that game or covering this area a little bit has given you a different perspective of the conference. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I had virtually no experience at all being in Big 12 Stadium. So, and that was kind of the reason why Andy and I went through the SEC too, because, when you're a beat writer, I was living in Columbus and my job was to write about, focus on, and cover Ohio State. So the previous 10 years before the last 3, and the first 10 years of my career were spent hyper-focused on Urban Meyer and how they were recruiting their national championship hopes, going to their games and going to their away games in the stadiums they played in. So as I adjusted to moving to Dallas and, marrying somebody who went to A&M and, kind of taking this next step in my career, I kind of view this as, my introduction into different areas of the country who are certainly as passionate about football as the place that I came from. And, one stadium, one trip, one game at a time, I'm starting to develop a expertise and a knowledge of the way things occur in these parts. And, sharing a podcast with Andy Staples is certainly a good front row seat on how you can kind of be an expert on everybody. So, I kind of have approached my job as just trying to learn and trying to be more accepting and understanding of standards that aren't always the same as the place that I covered before. And, knowing that college football is okay with that. Not everybody has to win a national championship to have a successful year, and not everybody's going to sign a top 5 class every year, but it's about the communities and the fans and the bars the program set for themselves and whether or not they can achieve those bars. And I got to be honest with you, it's been really fun to expand my horizons, and it makes me feel a little bad that it took this long for me to get out and kind of experience these new things.
Okay, you mentioned Andy. You guys made a bet where he had to eat $28 worth of Taco Bell.
Yeah.
He did that today, I saw. Do we have a status report a few hours later of how he's doing?
I think he's doing okay. Andy can put it down, man.
Yeah.
One time we were in Phoenix, Arizona. We were covering the 2019 Clemson-Ohio State playoff game. It was the semifinal there. And I took him to this deli that I grew up eating at called Chompy's, and they have Mile High corned beef sandwiches. And, the Mile High, like just picture the ones you see in New York that are like 5 inches tall and have the 2 small pieces of pie bread. This man ordered 6 corned beef pastrami sliders on challah bread in like a half a pound of fries, and ate all 6 of those sliders. It was probably the size of a regular big time sandwich. Then ordered another corned beef Mile High sandwich, both sides full, and ate another pound of fries on top of it, like let out one belch, and then we went and covered a football game. And I'll tell you, I'm not the skinniest guy in the world, but if I tried to even eat half of what he ate, I would have been pulverized. And not only did he eat it, he just like went and he worked for the next 8 hours, and I saw him eating a hot dog at halftime. So I don't actually think that that the $28 challenge from Taco Bell really set him back all that much. Now, what will happen as his body processes that food is a different discussion. But in terms of the overall amount of food that he ate, I think that he's doing just fine. He didn't even really seem to be full when he was done.
We have a graphic, and this is from, I believe this was the trip when you guys went to A&M, of the steak that you ordered and the steak that he ordered. Here it is. I put this up. You have a good-looking filet. He has just a cow, like the entire cow.
Yeah, and he's like shaming me about it now. He's like, dude, I thought you could eat more. I was like, I had an appetizer and a soup and a salad, and I got an 8-ounce steak, and this dude gets like the 35-ounce steak, and he ate it faster than I ate mine. So, that's kind of he works his butt off in the gym, and he's in really good shape, but he can really like eat quantities that I could never dream of. And like I was full after my 8-ounce steak.
Just straight
and I get it. 8 ounces is a small steak, but we ate other things too. So like he ate all the appetizers as well. It's not like I'm the only one who had appetizers with bread and stuff. That was just like what he ate. Yeah.
And just a straight up John Candying in the great outdoors, that thing.
Oh my God.
And he never seems full. Like he always is just like, yeah, okay, I'm done. Like, and then like, sometimes you got to unbutton the top button, or, you've been in a good carb coma where you just kind of lay down and need a few hours to recover from it. It's like, he goes, I don't get carb comas. I was like, all right, dude, whatever, man. Like, just do your thing.
He's inhuman. What games do you have this weekend?
I'm not going anywhere this weekend for the first time in a month.
Okay,
so
good
I'm going
for
to,
you.
We kind of take it week by week, and when game, I might go to the, try to go to the Ole Miss Texas A&M game in 2 weeks if Ole Miss wins and they're going to A&M off the bye week, and all this stuff. It's super exciting, man. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like the season's gone by so fast.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
Already in October, and it's like I feel like it just started.
Yeah, 6 or 7 games into the season.
And all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So, I want to get out there and cover, a few more games this year, and then at least and see some new stadiums. I've never taken a game in at Kyle Field yet. I've been to, College Station, but never have watched a home game there. So, I'm just trying to continually educate myself while also writing good columns from the games in the great state and beyond.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with it, Ari, and you would have been right in the middle of what that craziness was in Knoxville. That would have been fun.
That, to me, was like, I was like watching that game in the press box. I was like, God, I wish I was there. Like, I mean, everybody. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was the best atmosphere in the history of college football, but I cannot imagine a place being louder or more crazy than that place was when you think about the size of the stadium, the hunger of the fans to win that game and finally doing it. I mean, I don't know if you could, outline a better scenario for a college football Saturday anywhere. And it was fun to watch on TV. I cannot imagine what I've been like to be there.
Ari, thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate it. Good stuff. And we'll hope to see you down the road.
Yeah, anytime, guys. You take care, and thanks for having me on.
The athletic college football writer, Ari Wasserman, and given a different perspective now that he's been able to cover a few games down in the Big 12 and the story they did on the Yell Leader and A&M and their traditions and also much more. A lot to get to when it comes to the NFL. David Hellman, the Fox Sports Cowboys analyst on the West Coast, and his thoughts about much of what we saw. Eagles 26, Cowboys 17, and this is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem, and it has some of the most unbelievable selection of whiskeys around, especially when you talk to about local Texas whiskeys, whether it's Balcones, Devil's River, TX, Garrison Brothers. They have tons of stuff. I was looking, because we talk about DoorDash all the time. I was looking at their DoorDash menu the other day, and the selection on DoorDash would have taken me so long to go through. I would just might as well have gone to the store and walked in and looked at it. It's so unbelievable that in what is relatively a pretty small little place has so much variety and so much great stuff, whether it comes to craft beer or whiskeys or whatever you want there. They always have cool promotions going on with different new brands. You can follow them on Instagram. Really great stuff that they do at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank. Again, like I said, they're available on DoorDash. And if you don't have time to go in the store, if you're worried about getting caught up and you know specifically what you want, drive it to that drive-through window. Tell them they'll get it for you lickety-split. Believe me, it's so fast, and their customer service is out of this world. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Check them out on Instagram, available on DoorDash, or just go by the store. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, behind the bank.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Looking for a great job with great pay and awesome benefits? Genco FCU is hiring. As a longtime Waco employer, Genco focuses on what matters most in our employees' lives, like pay incentives, bonuses, benefits, 401k plans, paid time off, advancement opportunities, medical, prescription, dental, and vision insurance, as well as short and long-term disability. Come join our incredible team today and make Genco your career that will work for you. Apply at gencofcu.org or at any branch location.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
Here we go, this 5 o'clock hour, Paul's Top 5 around the corner. A couple of NFL notes we'll have for you, including Josh Gordon, including Jalen Petrie, and Tyquan Thornton and JaMychal Hasty. We're joined by David Hellman, Fox Sports out in the West Coast, covering the NFL and also, of course, opinions and insight on the Cowboys. David, that game got dicey for Philadelphia, and obviously Dallas was in a position to possibly jump right back in it. What's your overall view of what you saw? Cooper Rush obviously struggled, but he had been so amazing up until that time, considering his role.
Yeah, I think if you had asked any of us a month ago, like, what are the Cowboys going to look like with Cooper Rush in the lineup, that's probably what we would have imagined, right? Like, defense played well, maybe not spectacular, but well. And the backup quarterback made mistakes that put them in bad situations, and it wasn't enough. Like, I think that's what I would have said a month ago before they had played a game. And, credit, all credit in the world to Cooper Rush that it took 5 games for that to be the case. But, I think the Eagles are one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the NFL, and I think you saw the difference there. I give the Cowboys a ton of credit for bouncing back. Because, when that game went to halftime, you were sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be a blowout and it's on Dallas to pick up the pieces. And that really wasn't the case. So I don't think that's a game many people expected them to win. I'm not going to dogpile on Cooper Rush for not being able to beat the best team in the NFC on the road. And at the very least, you've got some positives to build on. Likely coming back in the near future. So, I don't view that as a game that you should be particularly down on, especially considering what Dallas might be getting back here the next week or two.
Well, that is probably going to be Dak Prescott this week, assuming all things go well. Do you expect to see some growing pains for Dak coming back into this offense because of how little he's played between training camp and preseason and now?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you take 5 weeks off, and again, it's an injury to his throwing hand. I think we all understand, like, he's healthy enough to play. That doesn't mean he's completely healthy. You've heard stories like this with guys like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. I would imagine when he does play, he's probably going to be wearing something on his hand for protection. And even if not, again, it's an injury that affects your throwing hand. So, yeah, I would expect there to be some growing pains, maybe some rustiness. Maybe it doesn't look as amazing as it normally would. I guess a blessing in disguise, if he does play this weekend, is that the Lions have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So this is a good group to break yourself in against. But yeah, that was always my concern, honestly, is not to rush Dak back at the expense of his ability to play well. It's been 6 weeks. I trust now that at the very least he'll be healthy enough to play well, but I think it's only natural to assume there will be an acclimation period.
There was an energy level from Philadelphia, perhaps the home crowd, that was obvious in the first half, and it was obvious the Cowboys came out in the second half angry, and they basically they didn't match it. They outperformed Philadelphia in the second half with what they were doing. What did Philly do, in your opinion, that made it so difficult for both the offense and defense to get anything done?
I mean, they're a really good team. I don't think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL because they don't have a quarterback that's on the level of a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes just yet. But from 1 to 53, I think you could make the case that the Eagles have the best roster in the league. I mean, they don't really have a weakness. I think if you were trying to pinpoint their weakness, you would probably say Jalen Hurts. And even he is playing at a wonderful level. Like, maybe not at the level, like I said, of a Josh Allen, but he's having a wonderful season. So, I mean, they're a good team. They are good enough to limit what Dallas can do on offense, particularly with a backup quarterback. And then that is such a unique offense to defend for a team like Dallas, especially when you fall behind early. So, I think the best way to beat, or you can't even say the best way to beat them because nobody has yet, but the best way to play Philadelphia is to try to get an early lead and force them to really have to throw to win. And nobody's been able to do that yet. They build leads quickly. They run the ball better than anybody. The RPO stuff that the Eagles have going, where you have to account for Jalen Hurts as both a runner and a passer on damn near every snap, it's really hard to deal with. So like I said, I'm not down on the Cowboys. I thought the defense didn't play as mind-bogglingly well as they had the last 2 or so weeks, but I think that's to be expected. And then again, you're limited on offense with what you can do. So all credit to the Eagles. Honestly, I thought the drive they put together in the fourth quarter when Dallas cut it to 20-17 to kind of reestablish control of the game and make sure that it didn't slip away. That's really impressive when you can kind of put your foot on the other team's throat and say, like, no, you're not climbing back into this. We're going to win this game. That shows an impressive amount of poise and competence, in my opinion. So, I don't think it's anything special other than that the Eagles are one of the most complete teams in the league right now.
David, the demise of Ezekiel Elliott has been a little bit exaggerated. Now, is he what he was 4 or 5 years ago? No. But he is healthy, and he's been very effective for the Cowboys, and people may not notice it because he's not putting up, 100-yard, 125, 130, 140-yard games. But he's been pretty effective for them.
He absolutely has.
Did we lose you?
That doesn't completely show up in the stat sheet. Because, you look at his stats, and they're fairly pedestrian. Has he had a 100-yard game yet? I don't think that he has. But if you watch the games, he's contributing in so many valuable ways, whether it's the physical nature with which he runs, just punishing people every time he gets the ball, breaking tackles, and an impressive amount of juice on his touchdown run. it's not anything that nobody else in the NFL can do, but we haven't seen him make those type of second level runs as often as we would prefer the last 2 or 3 years. And then his ability as a pass protector speaks for itself. I think Zeke has had a huge hand in why Cooper Rush has been as successful as he's been, just because he's a guy that gives you peace of mind when you're asking an inexperienced quarterback to drop back. Now, the flip side of that, and goes for everybody in the NFL, like, does the production he's giving you merit the contract that he's on? And the answer is probably no. Like, even with everything that he's doing, I think it's fair to say, probably not playing like a $90 million running back. I don't think that's a very hot take. But my thing is, that's off-season stuff. You know, that's bookkeeping. That's a conversation you have when you're looking at the state of your roster next year, trying to figure out the best way to move forward. Here, in the here and now, where you're playing a game every 6 days, Zeke has been so incredibly valuable. I think he's having a wonderful season.
You know, and I know a lot of this has to be seen because the Cowboys bet big on their roster, and so far it's worked out. But one of those guys who they took a flyer bringing him back, but has been there a long time and was essentially kind of like the fourth tight end or in a special teamer in Noah Brown. His ascension this year has been kind of remarkable.
It's probably my favorite story on the team right now, because it's the type of thing that you only notice if you're really dialed into the boring minutia of this team on a year-to-year basis. Like, the journey, honestly, going all the way back to college, like the journey that Noah Brown's been on is wild. Like, big-time recruit at a football factory like Ohio State, really had one amazing game in college, never really was able to consistently turn it into good seasons at a school that has obviously produced so many great NFL wide receivers. Gets drafted by the Cowboys as kind of an afterthought. He's a 7th round pick. Like, the joke was kind of like, well, you know, at least Zeke will have a buddy from college to hang out with. And like you said, he's basically been a blocking receiver. He made his name on special teams. And it's easy to forget, like, dealt with his fair share of injuries too. Like, he lost, I think, an entire season to a knee injury, had another one that was severely cut short, and was just kind of always a guy where you were like, okay, like, you know, Noah Brown this is probably the year Noah Brown gets cut. Like, I don't know how many years you have as a fringe guy. And not only has that not happened, but he finally got a real opportunity. And look, I mean, you know, I'm not saying he's the next coming of Justin Jefferson or anything, but obviously has so outplayed that status and been a reliable member of this offense more often than not. I wanted him to get that touchdown last night so badly. Not even really because I care about the final score, but it just, what a cool story for him to come as far as he has. So yeah, I mean, it's literally what, I think he was drafted in 2017. So this is 5-6 years in the making, and it's been cool. It's been cool to follow it all.
I don't know, Paul. You and I may have discussed this a couple of different times. I don't know of a franchise that produces unsung wide receivers, and I'm not just thinking about Miles Austin or Steinbeck or whoever it was that made some money in Jacksonville. Who was the guy that Romo made look good?
Laurent Robinson.
Yeah, but man, they do find them, don't they? They don't. They lose Amari Cooper. He moves on. They have CeeDee Lamb, and of course Gallup makes great catches. But they just seem like they just blank them out, left and right wide receivers with the Cowboys.
Absolutely. I mean, Cole Beasley's another one. A guy, you know, undersized, underutilized, undrafted free agent. You know, I mean, obviously Michael Gallup is they used a pretty big draft pick on him, but even him, a guy coming in the 3rd round who's turned into a $60 million guy, an 1,100-yard type of receiver. I think we pay a lot closer attention to the Cowboys than we do to anybody else. I think most teams have success stories like that, but yeah, the Cowboys' ability to find contributors from the back end of the draft or even outside of the draft. Cedric Wilson's another one, picked 190 something, 6th round pick, who was such a valuable member of last year's offense and turned it into a $20 million payday. And that's the cool thing. Like, you know, it's easy to argue about the 90 and $100 million guys like Dak and Zeke, and are they doing enough? But those are my favorite kinds of stories, are the guys who grind it out from a very low station. And, you know, when you're not Dak Prescott, it's like a big deal to play long enough to get an NFL pension and maybe secure, a $20 million payday. Like that's a huge deal. And I love stories like that. So I'm pumped for Noah Brown.
David, I have to thank you to your LSU Tigers for doing the Lord's work and embarrassing the Florida Gators the other night. That was great, especially on a night where I was sad for the third week in a row. But your Tigers are starting to put it together.
It's hey, y'all got us in week 1, but well, I mean, I know Brian Kelly's not a super likable guy, but he's a good coach. And I mean, you're seeing it with LSU. Like, they're playing cleaner games. Their quarterback has looked better. Jaden Daniels, it's night and day from where he was at the beginning of the season. So he's just torching Florida's secondary on Saturday night. So, I'm not getting too carried away. I have a feeling we've got a few more L's yet to come. Like, this is not a great LSU team, but Florida hasn't beaten us since 2018, I think, and that feels really good. I very much like handing losses to our friends down in Gainesville. That was a very fun game.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it as always. David Hellman, Fox Sports.
Thanks, guys.
That's one of the tougher crossover games, or usually is, with LSU and Florida when somebody else might get Vanderbilt or Missouri, and no disrespect to those programs. So here's a video, very short video. Former Baylor safety, now with the Texans, Jalen Petrie, played at Stratford High School. And here's a moment this past week where Stratford High School retired Jalen Petrie's jersey. Great to see Jalen. And that's a note right there. He's, of course, been phenomenal. Boy, you talk about somebody they miss in what he did. He was incredible. Tyquan Thornton caught a couple of touchdowns for the Patriots. Former Baylor receiver, and Jermichael Hasty busted a 61-yard touchdown run in what eventually was a Jacksonville loss to the Colts, 34-27. And a story that we can put together every year. Another team has released Josh Gordon from the practice squad. Titans released Gordon, who has been a part of a lot of different teams over the years. We know his story. It's not so much about that. It's just the fact that, my God, as gifted a body and receiver as maybe you've ever seen it. It just hasn't been able to work out.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get a chance other places, but it's probably coming to the end of the road for him here soon.
Former Matt Rule player at Temple, Robbie Anderson, was basically all but asked. He was asked, leave the field by Steve Wilkes, the head coach who took over for Matt Rule. Leave because of a confrontation he was having with the wide receivers coach. Today, Carolina traded Anderson to the Cardinals for a 6th-round pick in 24 and a 7th-round pick in 2025. I love what Wilkes did. Bye.
Yeah, and then traded the Panthers need picks, so trade everybody that's not nailed down that you get something for. I really think that they should also trade Christian McCaffrey, although he's not a malcontent, but get what you can for him and try to load up and get a quarterback.
All right, sports tonight on the CW channel tonight at 10:30. Coming up next, Paul Catalina's Monday Top 5.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
It's football and tailgate season. If you want product for the grill or smoker, charcoal, seasonings, marinades, sauces, Waco Custom Marketplace is your home to help prep, cook, and enjoy your food. Tailgate must-like brisket, tri-tip, fresh-made burgers, sausage, chicken wings, and if you want steaks, call in your order and pick them up. Bacon wrap fillets or any kind of ribeyes. USDA Select, Choice, and Prime that melt in your mouth. House-made sausage and jerky. Also, Waco Custom Marketplace, a one-stop shop for tailgating, barbecue cook-offs, and family get-togethers, fundraisers with fair prices to you, the customer. A bakery with fresh baked bread and kolaches. There's cold beer, wine, and soft drinks. Serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. A cut above the rest. Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 questions I have after week 7. This was such an electric weekend. There's a lot of things that happened. I had that top 5 games that could change the conference, and they all really especially I didn't even really have anything about USC and Utah on here, but that's a game that really throws the Pac-12 a lot into flux because it eliminates an undefeated team and creates a lot of who's going to do what on down the line. So we're not even getting to that game because I have other questions about other things. Number 5, are people sleeping on Clemson? Tim Brando told us he doesn't think they're very good. I didn't think they were very good a couple weeks ago, but after the Wake Forest game and then what they did to NC State, and then I saw them against Florida State, and they were just so unbelievably consistent throughout that game. DJ Uiagalelei is playing a lot better. He's got this big Donovan McNabb type body. He's hard to bring down. I think, and especially you look at the rest of their schedule, they got Syracuse this week who's undefeated, and then they're going to coast for the rest of the year. So unless Dino Babers jumps up and gets them and Syracuse's schedule starts to get really hard after this week, or starting with this week, I don't see anybody getting them. I don't. I see this maybe being a CFP team because I don't know who's going to beat Clemson. I really don't. Until maybe then.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting game coming up. I don't know about sleeping on them. I just think that overreacted a great deal to the early part of the season and a few struggles by DJU in particular. They're playing really well, and they've been playing really well for a couple of weeks, if not longer, as you mentioned. And I think they're a team that's squarely in the mix. I don't know what the national talk was the last couple of days. I didn't really pay much attention to that, so I'm not sure what the latest buzz is about where they stack up compared to Ohio State into, Tennessee now at this point, and even Alabama still. But to me, they're right there in the mix where they're playing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, will Michigan and Ohio State be undefeated when they play? Because Michigan, I know, does not look as maybe electric as Ohio State on offense, but what they did to Penn State the other day, they really dismantled them. The first half was kind of weird. They went in the score like it was. Penn State had done nothing. Michigan's defense is for real, and they can run the ball right at you with a couple different guys, Edwards and Corum. I wonder if they will be. Now, look, they've got Michigan State, who's not very good, but they don't beat very often. coming up. They still have to play Illinois, which is going to be tough. Ohio State still has, Penn State. They have, games on down the line. But these two teams look really good. I would love to see them both be undefeated when they played in late November.
Michigan has an identity, and they always thought they did, but it was kind of sporadic. They have just enough dynamic players in the passing game to make what they do even better. Their defense can run. Corum was fantastic. Ian Fitzsimmons told us about him. We knew about him, but he told us how he's fantastic. And, man, they have an identity. They are who they want to be, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, but
I think that they could very well be undefeated. There's a few tests in the way, as you pointed out, a couple for Michigan, but I'm not really worried about, Illinois. Sorry, but I'm not. So the one I guess you would be most concerned about would be Michigan State, and as you said, there's not really a whole lot to fear there right now. So Michigan and Ohio State being unbeaten, I don't think that that's crazy at all, and that's going to be a lot of fun here at the end of next month.
Yeah. Number 3, will Bama lose again? They always get a mulligan, and they've gotten theirs now with Tennessee. Mulligan, all-time classic game on the road. Alabama's fine if they keep on winning. But there's just things about this team that don't seem to be classic Alabama. Brain farts, penalties.
Lots of penalties.
Lots of penalties. Not just, bad penalties in bad spots, but they're just not the same.
Will Anderson III, who last year could have won the Heisman Trophy, who was amazing with how many tackles and sacks and stuff he had. He was everywhere. I even noticed in the Texas game, he ended up making one big play, even though Texas may have scored on it, or maybe there was a penalty that something's missing. I don't think he's entitled. I don't think he's just all of a sudden just trying to count his future NFL earnings, but something's missing with him, and I'm not able to watch the film. But I do know this. They're not a very smart football team, and that's the one thing you could always say about Nick Saban's teams is they're smart, football IQ, disciplined, and they're not any of that. And they're giving up massive plays on a defense that was listed before the year began as one of the best that Saban's ever had. That's not true.
I'm trying not to sneeze over here. I'm back on camera. I think that they might.
Been there many times, Craig. Been there many times. Number 2. Now, this is assuming that Tennessee would beat Kentucky in a couple weeks, which is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to beat Kentucky. But if Tennessee and Georgia are both undefeated when they play, what happens to the loser of that game who will not be in the SEC title game more than likely?
Well, it depends on who they play in the title game. If it's whoever, is it going to be a 2-loss team in the West, or is it Alabama with 1 loss? Yeah. There was actually somebody who tweeted this out, and I forgot who he was. He was an actual media member that said it's setting up. He said this, and, of course, Ohio State and Michigan have something to say about this, and perhaps the UCLA or Oregon, I don't know, and maybe even TCU. For right now, you could see easily the possibility that all 4 teams in the college football playoff are from the SEC.
No, you can't.
Absolutely not. That is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and that's why I brought it up. But there was that comment, and I just didn't respond. I was like, it's not worth the time.
Does the person not know that the Big Ten exists? And again, look, like I said earlier, look at Clemson's schedule. Who's going to beat Clemson? You tell me who's going to beat them. Even if Clemson is not as good as what everybody thinks that they are, now that they're through the gauntlet of their schedule, once Syracuse is over, now that they're undefeated, once they're through that, who's going to beat them? I don't know. They open up a lot. And number 1, will the Big 12 and the Pac-12 have a team in the CFP? And I say this not because the leagues are bad. I say it because the leagues are really, really good. These are 2 really good leagues. But the Big 12 football side of it now looks like the basketball side, where everybody's beating up on each other. Mm-hmm. And the Pac-12 has really good teams in it. Oregon's really good. USC's really good. UCLA's really good. Washington's pretty good.
Utah.
Yeah. They've got all these teams that are pretty good in it, and there might just be too much cross-pollination of losses there to get them knocked out. And we know what the powers that be seem to feel about these two leagues anyway. But
like, oh, God, we got to look at them.
Big 12 and Pac-12 right now.
They're just praying that Texas doesn't lose any more games so that they have them to, to fall. But they'd gladly welcome them into the playoff. But undefeated TCU, they'd rather, catch COVID than have to deal with that. So, yeah, there's a lot of games left to be played. Very well that, both could, I guess, potentially be left out. But I don't know. I think that the Pac-12's got, some good contenders at the moment. They got, obviously UCLA kind of leading that charge right now. And then, with the Big 12, I think TCU, I think Oklahoma State still, I think Texas, obviously. And, we'll see how the rest of it shakes out. But I think one of them will end up with somebody.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. The top 5 every single show we do, closing out the show. Thanks to Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie, and also Jacob Wilson and Garrett Ross. You have something else to add?
I was just thinking about the whole SEC all-4 thing, whoever said that. I just think that that's absurd. And
it is.
Whether or not that there's a legitimate argument for that, the fact that you would actually put that forward as a legitimate possibility in the playoff, I think is like, just look in the mirror and realize how silly that is, please. Like, Can we for a moment just stop with the silliness, and yes, there could very well be the top 4 teams, but the 4 teams in the playoff, that's stupid.
That's why the expansion needs to get done faster and faster, and then you could have 5 or 6 in there, but not 4 of the 4. All right, tomorrow we will have Quentin Johnston, TCU wide receiver, Mack Rhodes, Baylor's director of athletics, and Hall of Famer John McClain, among more. Thank you, all of you in the chat room. Thanks to the text today. I'm David Smoak for Paul, Catalina, and Craig Smoak. Good night on 365 Sports.
Ask your doctor for an ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.